with Town Council work session for Tuesday, August 25th, 2020. It is 3:30 p.m. Do we have everybody? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, we do. We're going to begin with the council vacancy interviews. And before we begin, Rick Holman is going to set the tone and give us some guidance. Go ahead, Rick.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Council. Welcome to August 25th. All of the candidates are probably in as attendees, I'm assuming right now, listening. And when we get ready to start, Chris Liberto will bring them over in the order of their appearance. And, you know, they will have 30 seconds to do an intro and then 4.5 minutes after that for any follow-up questions you may have relative to their letter of interest in general or to the Q&A that they completed. It's going to be extremely important that we be fair and consistent in this process and that we hold everybody to the 5-minute limit. So in doing so, Peyton will hold up a sign that shows when there's 25 seconds left on their intro and 30 seconds, you know, on their intro. If somebody chooses to go 40 seconds on their intro, they're just eating into their question time. So, but the important part is that we stay with the 5-minute. And sometimes that feels a little rude when you're in the middle of somebody presenting, but I think to be consistent, you know, when you see the time's up sign, we need to cut them off so we can stay on track and move on to the next the next candidate. And then Chris will bring that next candidate in, and the one that just interviewed will go back in as an attendee. You will have an opportunity under new business tonight, to have any discussion, comment, and if you are ready to make a vote, certainly that is the time for you to do it. You still have some time to make that appointment. If you feel that you need any additional information or discussion, that's entirely up to you. You are not required to make it tonight, but we do have that opportunity, and I'm sure the candidates would like to put this behind them and find out who's going to be the next person. You know, you'll make the vote by texting Helen, and then she will give the results of that. She will not say who voted for what. She'll say the results of how many votes people got. If they want additional information, they'd have to do an open records request for that. As we've done in the past, if we don't have a majority, which is 4 votes for any one candidate, we will drop the lowest vote getters, and then redo it until we get a majority vote for one person. So,
hey Rick, I thought I was told that it was a super majority.
No.
No.
No. It's only a majority. 4 is what you need. So, any questions about process for this?
Just so everybody knows, we are not expecting that the questions you ask, these are questions that'll be just for a candidate. They're not to be given to every candidate. So if something came up while you were looking over the letters or over their answers to the other questions, there's something you want to ask, this is the time to do it. When we get to that point, I'll ask for questions. Raise your hand. I am not going to ask any questions. I'm going to try to moderate this and give everybody the opportunity to at least ask one question to one candidate. Some of you may not have any. Some of you may have a whole bunch. So this will be difficult for us also. So try to stay on point, and we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, we have a fairly full agenda, so I think we should jump into it and get rolling if everybody's ready.
All right, our first interview tonight is Jennifer McTamney. Good evening, Jennifer.
Well, hello, Eric. Hello, Town Council.
Jen.
Good to see y'all.
Okay, so you can start with your 30-second introduction, and then we'll have a few questions for you.
All right, awesome. Hi, as you know, my name is Jennifer McTamney. I moved here in 1999, and sometime around 2003, I came across a quote from Martin Luther King that said, "Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others?" And I've stuck that on my refrigerator, and I've lived by those words ever since. I've been putting my skills and my time to work on behalf of the community ever since. I have a unique position here today because I not only have served 2 terms on town council and have deep understanding of the work that is done there and how things flow and the programs that the town has so generously creates on behalf of the community, but I've also served as a staff person for 3 years, running the child care program for the town of Breck and also getting to work on housing. I've met with all of you. I think you know I'm deeply committed to this community. I have the time and I really have the passion. I've missed council since I left in 2014, and I would be honored to be able to put those skills and be able to step into that role immediately and be useful and help us through a very difficult time. I recognize the time and am good to go.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Yep.
All right. Question for Jen. Yes, Kelly, please.
Jen, I loved how you talked about, I'm not sure if it was actually in your letter or if it was in the response, but you said you'd take on strategic projects that would provide jobs and economic security to locals. I was just curious what you meant by that and what you were thinking there.
Yeah, so when we faced the recession back in 2009, we did a couple of things as a town council. One, we created favorable policies around local contractors, right? So in a bidding situation, we really tried to do that. We also really worked hard, and one of the things we did, which was which was a little controversial at this time, was we went forward with the Valley Brook housing project and contracted with a local provider, which created about $22 million worth of revenues that came in and out through the company for that project. So it's that kind of work that I think that you have the opportunity to do, and being strategic and saying what is things that local people could actually bid for and be part of. And as well as I think this winter is going to have a lot of challenges around being innovative to make sure that people can keep their businesses alive as we wend our way through who knows what's coming next with COVID.
Dick.
How do you think the work of council has changed since you last served?
I think you guys are a lot. There's, one thing I think is a huge improvement is the transparency and the opportunity for people to participate in Zoom. So I think that's been a big shift. I think I've seen you guys work as a town staff person. I feel like you were more deeply involved in the work at staff level, providing input. So I think that's been a really important relationship. And I think just the additional communication and social media exposure and really opportunity to get and engage the community, whether it's on a committee level or just through open forum sessions or Eric's daily or his COVID updates, are all things that have shifted and made that role more public and I think more transparent, and we end up doing a better job serving the public that way.
Jeffrey.
Jen, being the head of Building Hope, mental health in Summit County, in Breckenridge, Summit County, has gone from incredibly important to almost life-savingly crucial. Mm-hmm. What can we do as a council, and what do you think you can help us do as a councilwoman to further that cause?
Well, I always bring that lens to the work that I do, just like I would bring community lens back to my work at Building Hope. So I think thinking about that and having that in the back of your head is really an important aspect when we're doing that. Your continued support financially, as well as the work that Eric does. I mean, just the other day he was talking about checking on your neighbors. So incredibly important. It's sometimes these really simple acts that can make the difference in someone's life. So I think there's numerous ways that I do that, but in particular, it's really that lens that I bring and the opportunity to just continue the convening and connecting and collaborative work that Building Hope does in the community, bringing more people into the fold and doing stuff at a bigger level across our community. One of the things we've done at Building Hope that's been pretty innovative is we've created this incredible partnership with Eagle Valley Behavioral Health, because we recognize that acting as a region is a lot more powerful than us acting as a standalone community.
Thank you.
Excellent. Is that time's up? Well done.
Thank you, Jen.
Thanks. We'll see you guys
Thanks,
later.
Jen.
Live long and prosper.
Thanks, Jen.
Okay, next we'll have Emily Wall. I think that was a good pace there. That was three questions. So I think we'll be in that 2 to 3 question range as this goes on.
We're not gonna do the 30-second intro. That's up to them to manage their intro. It's too awkward, it's too quick.
Okay. Let's bring Emily Wall in, Chris.
Emily, you just have to enable your video and audio.
Can everybody hear me now?
Yeah.
Great. Well, Mayor and Town Council, I'm Emily Wall, and I hope to be your choice for the Town Council vacancy. Almost 10% of our county is made up of Latinos. As a first-generation Latino, I personally understand their struggles of these families: childcare, work, education, housing, and mental health issues. Given my personal and professional experience, I will provide a lens to our council and community on how we can be more inclusive and break down barriers. I have the business acumen to help us make good decisions, to assist and support our business community and workforce during these challenging times. Allow me to be your voice for our community.
Thank you, Emily.
You're welcome.
We're going to have a couple questions now from the council. Who'd like to go first? Jeffrey.
Emily, right, we know that the underserved population is underserved. That's why that term exists. I think now with COVID and the pandemic, it's even more underserved. Do you think their needs have grown? I know obviously the needs have grown, but have they changed at all? In other words, it's the needs are there and there's more needs, but are the needs the same as they were before, but just more in more of them, more dramatic? Or do you think they have evolved and kind of morphed?
Well, Jeffrey and council, I actually think they have morphed because the stresses on our community are greater than they've ever been. In the last 6-8 months, and what's ahead of us is going to further stress those families. And I think I saw something recently in the Summit Daily News that greater than 75% of our families in the coming year are going to have children in their home while they're working and they're going to school. And some of them are online. So I absolutely do feel that their needs and their stresses in mental health and how we assist them with housing and education and childcare is vital. And I think we have an opportunity to do that, not through just the current initiatives, but also through some of the things we're trying to do through social equity.
Thanks.
Aaron.
So just as a follow-up, what would you put into place to help those parents who are at home with young children going to school?
Well, I think we've got to first start by having a real open dialogue and really understand what's important to those families. I will tell you, as a Latino with my being raised, that the family unit is vital. And it's not unusual that these families have multi-generational families living with each other in tight quarters. So I think we got to start by having an open dialogue and really listening to them first before us assuming what is needed. So I think that's where we got to start. And then I think we've got to get creative. I think there are opportunities in childcare that we haven't necessarily really driven in our community. Our childcare centers, as you know, are packed. They've got wait lists. Not all families can afford it. We've done a great job with tuition assistance, but at the end of the day, we've got to look at some other options for those families as well.
Who would like to ask the next one? Dick.
Emily, what skills do you think you bring to council that may not exist today?
Well, I think I bring a little bit of a different perspective. Part of that is just from my own personal experience. I've done a lot of work in the space of equity and diversity, given my both nonprofit work as well as my professional work. And while I feel that the council is very open to going down that path, I think I have some learned skills from working in that capacity, both professionally and through nonprofits personally.
Next.
I'll ask one, but it's probably too long for the 1 minute. Does anyone
Okay.
have a short?
Go ahead, Kelly. See if she can.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to hear more about the Global Diversity Initiative that you talked about in your letter.
Yeah, so this was a pretty exciting time for me at BMC Software. I had a global position and I traveled extensively around the world. I had teams around the world. And I really, what I learned was that while I had a corporate position, we really weren't doing a good job in helping people cross-culturally, understanding different backgrounds, different issues, and sharing different ideas. So I tried to create a platform working with senior management to really bring that to the forefront. Hope I did that in 30 seconds.
Oh, that was good.
All right. Thank you, Emily. I think, is that time, Peyton? That is time. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. Next, we have Chris Tennell. Good job, guys. Good pace. Hello, Chris.
Hey,
Hello, Eric.
Welcome.
Chris.
Thank you.
All right. You ready to go?
Yep, let's speed through the intro so I can dispel any myths you might think about me.
Go to it.
So yeah, Mr. Mayor, Town Council, thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to interview for this Town Council appointment. I'm a fifth generation Coloradoan, blessed to visit and recreate in Colorado and many mountain towns throughout my entire youth, Breck included. Like so many others, I moved to Breck after my college years to immerse myself in this mountain lifestyle. I went all in and I lived in an off-grid cabin up French Gulch for many years. Somehow I was still able to meet my wife. We both met working a summer job for the town of Breckenridge back in 1994. Jumping forward many years, we have lived in and enjoyed the community experience of the deed-restricted neighborhood here in Wellington. I also embraced the opportunity to purchase and reimagine a local business when I owned Mountain Outfitters. Spent 6 years on that and then was able to hand it off to a long-term owner. And obviously working through the challenges of the Great Recession seems like child's play now, but it definitely led me to have optimism for what our town can do even during this challenge. Passion for the outdoors led me to apply and serve on Breckenridge Open Space Advisory Commission, which I served from 2012 to 2016, and then started again on 2019 for a 4-year appointment. And then I'm currently involved with the Summit Huts Association, as some of you know. I'm assisting in an interim executive director role, and that has been continued as we work our way through the strategic management of all the changes that we're faced with this pandemic. So that's what you know.
Thank you, Chris. Dennis, first question.
Hi,
Hey,
Dennis.
Chris, in your opinion, what's the biggest challenge for BOSAC in the next year or two?
The next year or two. Well, obviously, the BOSAC program has been an irrefutable success. Thank you to all the council members and founders on the screen here right now for putting it into play. I think the biggest thing with BOSAC is going to be the transition from its primary role now, which has been acquisition and kind of building these long-term links with our trail system, into more of a management profile. And so I think the advisory commission is going to be tasked more with helping staff figure out how we manage the 4,500 acres that we've acquired and the trails that we've built. I think it's more than 50 miles of trails nowadays. And new things are going to come up, you know, whether it's trailhead mitigation, usage challenges. You know, we obviously have a lot of different types of usage. We saw a lot of changes with that this summer. And how we manage some of the more environmentally sensitive zones that we've identified, like Cucumber Gulch. But I think we also have some exciting things that have come up. You know, we talked a little bit about it, but we're looking to dive deeper into how we reflect more inclusivity and diversity, even in our open space programs. So I think that's where open space has the potential to go.
Excellent. Thanks, Chris. Next question. Yes, Aaron.
So in one of your answers, Chris, I think it was your very last answer about the significant influx of drive-in long-term visitors for summer. Do
Yeah.
you have any thoughts on solutioning for that?
I don't know if it's necessarily a problem that requires a solution. I think it's just a realization that we became the short-term respite for a lot of people that could drive to Breckenridge that didn't traditionally, whether they had soccer tournaments or other things going on that would normally prevent them from spending as much time as they did here. But I think it's a good opportunity for us to measure how this summer went and see where some of the gaps in our infrastructure might be, whether again it's parking or just the ability to serve that influx of people. And I think that in the long term, it's going to be beneficial because those people may not all come back at once, but I think they're going to trickle back in because of the experience we were able to provide them during this challenging time.
Dick.
What unique skill sets do you bring to this council?
I think in my letter I outlined a lot of it was just the business acumen I've gained from helping businesses through deep transitions. Seems like everything that I've been handed has been during times of strife or transition, and I think I have the ability to manage that from a sense of humility and neutrality.
Excellent.
Time.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for putting your name in.
Yes.
All right. Let us move on to Ellen Brown. Hello, Ellen.
Hi, Eric. How are you?
Good. So 30 seconds, and then we're going to take 4.5 minutes to ask you a couple questions.
Absolutely.
So
I know the drill now. I've been watching it.
go to it.
So thanks for the interview. Ellen Brown, I know some of you, but I've been here since 2004. Have 2 kiddos that I've raised here, and we moved here. We were in the corporate world on the East Coast and hopped in an RV for a year and a half after copious planning, and fell in love with this area and made it home. And I guess that's really why I threw my hat in the ring, is if I'm a fit to help this community maintain the character that brought us here, then I want to be a part of that. I don't want to see us lose it, and we're at such a critical junction. I know we have COVID and everything else, but I guess if you ask a platform, I know you haven't asked that question yet, but that's a huge platform of mine, is I came here because this was a place that people lived and worked. It wasn't just a place people came and visited, and it just is really dear to me that not be lost. And I feel like COVID made it worse. And I don't know, anything I can do to help.
All right. Thank you. Let's go to Dennis for the first question.
Hi, Ellen.
Hi, Dennis.
In your letter, you said that you spent over 30 years in the healthcare industry trying to make it better for everyone. Can you give us a brief description of what that was?
Sure. So I've been lucky enough to work in the strategic realm at the C-suite level. And I don't mean that in any sort of snooty way, but I've been really lucky to get to influence change at the real decision maker point. And so I work with CEOs all over the country, with big hospital systems, with physician organizations, as well as big insurers. And I work with them in all sorts of different ways to try and change policy, implement policy, and also make strategic change that they don't even have to make. And my biggest platform that I've been involved in has really been in care integration and payment reform. So instead of just this whole pay for click thing where, doctors are incentivized to see more people, physicians and hospitals taking the initiative to take risk on their reimbursement so that they start to put out better quality and administer the right type of care. My best friends still don't really know what I do, so I will save time, Dennis, and we can always have a cup of coffee and I can explain it more, but it's not a 1 minute answer.
All right, Dick.
Ellen, hey, question. You said in your intro that your passion is to maintain community character. What do you think are the 2 most important things this town council needs to do in the next 2 years to accomplish that?
Balance the reality of the fact that people want to be here and they want to visit here, but make it a place that's sustainable financially and not just through subsidized housing. So I think you probably saw in my response that I think there's a big opportunity for us, and it's not an easy one, but to try and diversify ourselves economically so we're not 80% dependent on tourism. I would love to say that there's an answer to providing housing to folks that that work at the ski resort constantly. But the reality is we do need to have some other jobs in this community where people can pay $1 million for a home. And that means being very creative on the types of businesses that we work to try to attract. And it takes some of the pressure off of the tourism industry, like with the situation that we're facing right now with COVID. And I'm not saying that that's easy at all, but I think that that's really important. It's not just, I feel like sometimes we get very pro-local, and we have to be, but I think sometimes we forget about the reality of what's made our town so valuable is that people do want to come here. And there's a lot of tension around that. And I think that's a really important thing to address.
Jeffrey.
Ella, do you have any thoughts about the minimum wage, what we've been dealing with mostly at a state level? The county kind of dipped their toe in the water about that. Any thought about not a state mandated minimum wage, but either a county or town mandated minimum wage increase?
I mean, I would be in favor of something to that extent. I know this is going to sound bizarre when I say this as a comparison, but I look at the stance that the town and the community took on COVID and how conservative we were. And I feel that that would be the type of policy that we could do where we really put our foot down and say, look, we have to be able to sustain the local workforce, to be able to sustain the tourism that we do have at this moment. And that's going to be required to do something like that.
Thanks.
I only have 15 seconds left, I bet, so.
I just ignore those signs. I always do.
I really appreciate you all giving us the opportunity. I know I'm like a total dark horse candidate, but this was great. And just know I'm out here and I want to be involved no matter what happens.
Thank you.
Ellen. Thanks for
Yeah.
putting your name down. We appreciate
Thank you.
it. All right. Carol Sade is next. Hello, Carol.
Hello, how's everyone doing?
Good. How are you?
Great.
Go ahead and give us your 30 seconds followed by some questions.
All right. Hi, I'm Carol Sade. Thank you for considering me for the appointment. Our council has great experience and leadership, and I know I could complement this team with a fresh voice. I'd bring the perspective of an active young adult working on building a sustainable life here. At the same time, I know I have the background and values to serve our community. I have unique experience from working on federal and state policy to advancing equity in our immigrant community. I'd hit the ground running, I'd work my tail off, and thank you for the opportunity.
All right. Who's got the first question for Carol? Jeffrey.
Carol, I know you work for David Cunningham. What is his company called? And what is your experience at the State House working with state issues and your relationships to some of the state players?
Of course. So I work for Summit Information Services. It's a Frisco-based company. And what we do is we take federal issues and localize them and then work on state issues too. So we have access to a variety of industries working on different issues. At the state level, for example, last year, I worked with Forward.us, immigration advocacy organization. So we really worked with lawmakers at the state level and then also different business voices in the state to help pass the driver's license expansion bill, which gives undocumented immigrants access to a driver's license. Otherwise, we've done a range of like niche health issues. We've done some sort of wireless infrastructure issues. So all sorts of different industry related issues at the State House.
Excellent. Who's next? Dennis.
Hi, Carol. Hey,
Hello.
in your opinion, what's the biggest challenge for young people in this community other than housing?
You know, other than housing, it's how are we going to continue to live here? Outside of housing, one of the questions you ask us, if we're looking forward and we want to have a family, how are we ever going to afford to have a family here? How are we going to maintain employment, have family here? I mean, there's different issues. I've worked at Clint's lodging, catering, landscaping. And sometimes those bills weigh us down a little bit, and things where we wouldn't have to worry so much about childcare or transportation, that would be huge help. But you said except housing, really housing is that huge one where if I had some great peers leave the community because they can't afford to stay here.
Thank you.
Kelly.
Carol, can you tell us a little bit about your experiences with Mountain Dreamers and Building Hope and some of that community work that you've done?
Of course. With Mountain Dreamers, I co-founded the group with some of my friends in the immigrant community. I wrote our mission statement when we formed the initial board. I took on the role of board president, and I play a critical part in setting our priorities. I'm so proud of what we've done to take steps to advance equity in our community. We do everything from provide educational resources, to do different awareness events to educate non-impact members of the community. We do direct assistance. We create a forum for the immigrant community to have open conversations with law enforcement. So a lot of that. And just lately, we try and recruit community members just to voice their support for the immigrant community.
That's great.
Another question, Jeffrey?
Yeah, I just follow up on that on Mountain Dreamers. Since you were one of the founders, how long ago was that? 12 years ago or something like that?
I mean, I think we've done a lot. It feels like 12 years.
How long has it been?
Like 2.5 years. And then we've been a formal 501c3 for just a year.
All right. The question still applies. Have you found that you've gotten more acceptance in the community over those 2 years, or has it remained static, or has it diminished?
You know, I think Mountain Dreamers in general, the community has been so receptive to us, which has been great. I think we're taking real concrete steps in making a difference, advancing equity. For example, you brought it up earlier, Jeffrey, with COVID, it exposed a huge inequality in the immigrant community. What Mountain Dreamers is doing, we're coordinating the Social Equity Task Force to make sure that public health information gets to these communities.
Thanks.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
All right. Next is going to be Hal Vatcher, or Harold Vatcher, as it says on the sheet in front of me.
Wait, he's Harold?
He's Harold.
No idea it was Harold.
And that's what it says.
Do you call him
Yeah.
Harold?
Yeah, for some reason, my screen just reset just about the time I'm supposed to come on. Anybody hear me and see me?
We can hear
Yeah.
you, we can't see you.
I can see a photo of you.
Yeah.
There he is.
There he is.
Okay.
Hello, Hal.
Sorry about that. Yeah, Harold's my legal name. And Hal's the name I go by. So I think you all know me. My name is Harold Vatcher, candidate for town council. Lived here for 7 years. Decided, in fact, wanted to get involved with the town the day I arrived, and have been very actively involved for the past 7 years on a number of committees. I don't want to repeat a bunch of the stuff that you've already got from the resume and the cover letter and the answer to the questions and whatever. So I'm not going to waste a bunch of your time there. I do want to raise a bit of a concern, though. And this is at risk of insulting some of you, but I have the impression that some of you have a preconceived plan or idea that you should vote for a female and a young female. And I hope that's not true. Besides it being discriminatory, it's just not part of the criteria and not fair to all the candidates. I really hope you will select somebody who best fits the position no matter what. Thank you.
We absolutely will, Hal. Don't worry.
Hey, who's got a question for Hal? Yes, Jeffrey.
First of all, Hal, I've served with you on various committees over the years, and thanks for your continuing involvement. 7 years since you moved here, do you feel that the town has drastically changed in those 7 years, and for the better, worse, or progress is progress?
Unlike a lot of people, I don't think it's changed all that much. I mean, obviously, we have a lot more visitors, so there's more days are crowded, or whether it's on the mountain or walking around downtown. I think the character of the town has remained pretty darn the same, which is, we like people. We're kind of a kickback attitude. Go to the finest restaurant with your ripped jacket, you're okay. That's all right in our town, unlike some other ski towns. So I still think we're very similar to 7 years ago. And I don't have the 30 or 40 years you guys have got.
Yeah, but you have a better memory.
Who else has a question for Hal?
Hal, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your volunteering in the community and what you think some of the meaningful impacts you've had.
Well, certainly the parking and transit stuff that we did, that the lift ticket tax initiative that we put in place, which is funding a whole bunch of the things we're doing now. Liquor and marijuana board is kind of interesting. It's almost rubber stamping, so I can't say that that's super important. Just all the other things that I do. One of the things I do just on my own is communications. Is like forwarding the minutes of all of our meetings to a lot more people than I think you're getting on social media. In fact, I gave I forget her name now. Anyways, the data on how many people have reached out to me about forwarding all the information. It's just part of what I do. I love this town, and I have from the day I arrived here, and will do anything I can to make sure people love it as well.
Jeffrey, go ahead.
How the elephant in the room is this COVID deal. That's what we're all dealing with. And, you've suffered through dealt with some crisis, Y2K and whatnot, that was computer, not health. What do you see? I mean, are you optimistic in your life experiences? I mean, what do you project this is going to happen, the effect it's going to have on our community?
Well, if I had that silver bullet, I could understand, what it's all about. I could be very rich very quick. No, I don't have any more experience than anybody else from that standpoint. I will want to mention, however, that part of my previous job was pandemic planning, disaster recovery, pandemics, et cetera. And it's really interesting watching, especially some of the things that we've done with our town, the implementation of some solutions like work from home and expanding communications, and the things that the town has stepped up to protect the town, I think has been awesome.
So I'll be a quick one more. So are you a big fan of fiber?
I'm a fan of fiber. I don't know how effective it's been overall for our town. I have to say that without fiber on my Comcast, I'm perfectly happy.
Okay.
Any parting words, Hal?
Nope. Everything's good. Again, I hope you'll consider me strongly to be on council. I love our town. I think I can help. And if I don't help by being on council, I know I'm not supposed to say this, but I'll still continue to help.
We know you will. Thank you, Hal.
Thank you, Hal.
All right. Next will be Melanie Dunn.
Come on, Melanie.
Give me 1 second, everyone. I just had her. She should be coming over in a moment.
Thanks, Chris. Quick shout out to Chris Liberto, who has kept us running smoothly on these Zoom calls since the beginning of the COVID.
Yes. Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
Can't be easy.
Okay.
Or
John Parks here. Melanie, you should be able to enable your audio and video now. There you go.
Missed it.
Oh,
Can't hear you, Melanie.
You're muted.
And you're sideways.
How about now?
Yep, we can hear
Great.
you.
There you
There
go.
you go.
Good job.
Here I am.
Welcome.
Thank
All right,
you.
Give us a 30-second spiel, and then we'll ask you some questions.
Okay, great. I'm Melanie Dunn, and I own a salon in Breckenridge. I've been here 5 years, and I moved here from Virginia. And in Virginia, I was involved with my local, it's not called town council, it was a merchant association. And I was on the board for 3 years there, and I gained amazing experience, and I loved being a part of my community there. And now after 5 years in Breckenridge, I feel like I'm very excited to get more involved in the town here and see how I can be a part of the continued betterment of Breckenridge.
Excellent. All right, who's got the first question for Melanie this evening? Yes, Aaron.
I loved your social equity answer, and the fact that you're training and you're training your staff to deal with, I shouldn't say deal, but to treat different hair types. And I think that's a really great way to encourage and embrace different people from different backgrounds. Do you see other opportunities around town similar to that could be implemented in our community?
Interesting. I haven't noticed, I guess. I think what I would say is that I think the best thing we can do is listen. And that's something that in the salon, that's how I came up with the idea that we should, be trained in all hair types, and you shouldn't have to say no to someone because of their ethnicity, which is basically what it comes down to if you're not trained on different hair types. And so, I'm sure that similar things exist in other businesses that I just am not fully aware of because I'm a hairstylist, and that's what makeup artist, that's kind of my focus in my personal, career. So I'm curious to see, and I'm sure it does exist, but I haven't noticed, I don't personally know yet.
Thank you.
Jeffrey.
As a small business owner, does the town offer enough resources to deal with the vagrancies of the season? In other words, feast or famine, and also just a situation of trying to pay rent, pay mortgage in this community?
Oh my goodness. So the town paid my rent as a business owner in May, and that was really touching. I mean, and I moved here because of the town, and I like skiing and I like hiking, but really what drew me to Breckenridge was the town and the community. And during COVID and shutting down and reopening, and through the whole process, logging in and seeing the meetings online, that has just been so amazing, and so just proving to me that what I already found, which is that Breckenridge, the town and the community here, is just amazing. And I would say yes. I mean, there's always room for improvement in everything, but I have felt completely supported as a business owner and heard, and I feel very empowered after closing and reopening and having the support and the communication with the town council and the members of the community.
Thanks.
Dick.
What unique skill sets do you think you would bring to this council?
Well, I'll tell you. So I feel like that's such an interview question that I'm sure all of us have been practicing it. And I heard my answer in every other answer that I've also heard already, which is, of course. So yes, what I would say for me personally is that as a hairstylist and a salon owner, I work really closely with clients every day. And I also hear the intimate conversations that my stylists and my team have. And so that really gives us a close eye and a really close relationship with our community in a way that's maybe a little bit more intimate than some, And so I think having that personal relationship with a lot of people that come into my salon, either visiting or who live here, and mixing that with my experience on this board and the other experiences I've had in Virginia volunteering and making decisions that affect hundreds of businesses when it comes to parking or deciding what event we're going to have and what festival we're going to have, and just even down to helping the poster design being decided upon or deciding if we're going to enforce parking or whatever. So I have kind of those both.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Melanie. That's getting close to time. Do you have a last word for us, or?
You do men's hair?
I do.
Okay, good.
Yes, thank you so much. It is really an honor.
For putting your name in. Very much, Melanie.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Stephen Fretz is next. A decent crowd watching this evening. Hello, sir.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
Well, why don't you give us a little intro on yourself, and then we'll ask you a few questions.
Sure. I'm Steve Fretz. I've lived in Breckenridge now going on 4 years, but originally I moved to Colorado in 1997. Started off in Denver, had a brief stint at the Pepsi Center in 2001, managing the Club Lover Luxury Suites and all the catering there for the Stanley Cup and the All-Star Game. Got recruited from there out to Steamboat. Right before the Mountain got sold, 2001, with the 9/11 fiasco, lost jobs there, moved to Vail. My son was born with and diagnosed with autism. I put my name in the hat with the governor at the time, and out of 350 plus candidates, I was appointed to join all the heads of every state agency from the Department of Labor on down. Right after my term, I became one of your COVID most vulnerable, suffering 2 heart attacks, 2 sudden cardiac arrests, was shocked back to life, and had a couple helicopter rides. So I have experience both as the parent and commissioner, and both as the patient in the bed and dealing with all the other stuff. So I might bring a little unique perspective, especially considering the Autism Commission was addressing stuff similarly at this time with right after the financial crisis. How do you pay for stuff? Can't just cut everything, and you can't just tax everything. So there has to be a balance of what you cut, what you create.
Excellent. Who's got the first question, Stephen? Yeah, Kelly, go ahead.
Stephen, I read about, your involvement with autism, and I was just wondering if over the last 4 years, you've seen ways in the town, like a really important way that we could make an impact on kids or people with autism and bringing awareness or some sort of support.
Off the top of my head, it would have to be interactions with law enforcement. In all of the towns, I did town hall meetings in Aspen, did one here in Breckenridge, Vail, Steamboat, and a lot of times you have second homeowners or someone who comes on a vacation and they might not know that the kid next door has autism. So they call the police and say, hey, there's a domestic dispute or there's this. And the next thing you know, you have a standoffish situation for somebody who maybe should be handled in a different way. And if the police knew that their local resident was that way, when the second homeowner or the tourist called, they might be able to say, hey, you know what? Your neighbor has this disability or has that challenge. It's nothing to be concerned about, and kind of diffuse and de-escalate those situations.
That's really interesting. Thanks for sharing that.
Questions? Dick.
Do you feel like our PD has embraced that responsibility? Or
I think it's one of those situations where if we don't know what we're dealing with, and a lot of times that comes with the 911 call where the person calls in and says, hey, this is what's going on, and they're not being forthright with the officer. So they're coming prepared for a certain situation, and you might encounter someone who, hey, I saw somebody suspicious or weird, but it was somebody with autism who doesn't know how to act. I mean, I've had experiences where the police have been called on my son for those types of things. And he has that thing now where he thinks, like, if he tells people he's autistic, that they will call the cops on him. And that's not a lesson I think we want to teach when in school, we have that interaction of call 911, and then we send mixed messages.
Jeffrey, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I did. Stephen, first of all, sorry about all these health issues you've had. God, I can't imagine. Do you feel that our health system, I mean, obviously there's only so much the government can do, a local government can do, but do you feel that our health system provides the necessary facilities to deal with some of these issues like you had?
Well, I think if you think about the fact I left the helipad in Vail, had surgery at PSL in Denver, and my first doctor was Tom Chrisman here in Summit County a decade ago. So I understand like there's an interconnectivity between like your cardiac rehab is in Edwards, and we all have to work together in order to understand these things. Just like we had a skier who was in Keystone goes to Vail with the COVID, we could very easily have someone come from Beaver Creek to Breckenridge this year and do the same thing.
Okay, thanks.
Excellent. Last question, anyone? All right, Stephen, thank you for applying.
Thank you for the consideration.
What makes this town run? We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All righty. We got Dean is next. Chris, did you find him? Was he in the crowd?
I don't think he's in attendance. He wasn't in our practice session earlier either.
Okay.
I think we might just move on to Leslie Glenn. And
Let's jump on Leslie and we'll see if he shows up somehow.
Sounds good.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. Thank you all for the opportunity.
Go ahead and give us about 30 seconds about yourself, and then we'll ask you some questions.
Hi, my name is Leslie Glenn. I've been in Breckenridge 18 years and have had many roles in that time. I started as a professional athlete, snowboarder, was a server, marketing manager, event planner, and currently work as a yoga teacher and yoga teacher trainer for those inspired. One of my biggest strengths, I believe, is the ability to listen, understand, and empathize from multiple viewpoints or perspectives on any given issue.
Excellent. Thank you, Leslie. Questions? Dick.
Leslie, coming from your experiences in the workforce, varied experiences, what do you think the most important thing this town council can do to support our workforce outside of housing? Housing obviously is the easy, quickie one, but what else can we do?
Well, a quick shout out to just the pandemic. I mean, right now, I think the most present thing is just staying open, allowing both visitors and community members to be safe and healthy so that the businesses can run and the visitors can come. Aside from that, in a more broad perspective, I would say that making sure there's opportunities for people to grow. I feel like there's a lot of starter jobs available, but often there aren't as many opportunities for someone who wants to remain a big integral part of the community to find something that fulfills them and suits them as they grow older and want something more stable and probably more pay.
Thanks.
Kelly.
Leslie, do you see your business needing to change this winter, or what do you foresee the next 6 months to a year looking like?
Yes, yeah, it will definitely change, most certainly. The yoga studios have adapted to have classes outside, which has been a great Band-Aid for the summer. But moving into the winter, we've looking into both some classes online as well as additional protocols to just make sure people in the studio feel safe when they come in, less people per class, smaller groups, And with the teacher trainings, we're moving a lot of that to a Zoom form, or part of that teacher training, our first half that's less hands-on, into a virtual format that's just as special and captivating as our in-person classes.
Jeffrey.
Leslie, I mean, pretty much your the success story as far as a local coming in here, getting established, and then kind of growing with the community and becoming a part of the community. What was the biggest challenge? And I mean, other than housing, there again, when you started out as an athlete and then kind of moved up into the various work genres, what was it the wage, or was it trying to live near enough to where you work, or what was it other than finding a place to live? Could you find a place to live near where you work?
You know, I was very lucky on housing. Personally, I was able to buy a condo early when I moved here. So my biggest challenges were just finding consistent year-round work. I've been lucky though in that aspect as well. And then the other thing that I think is really important to bring up is just this sense of community. And I feel like Breckenridge does it right. And we do have a great sense of community, but I think it's something we need to continue to build, continue to support people who don't have family nearby, and to really reach out with programs like Building Hope and positive events that help people feel welcome and connected.
Anybody have a last quick question?
I have one quick one.
Go ahead.
How can we get more of the say the Hispanic, or the other than the kind of the white community involved in yoga?
You know, that's a question I ask myself all the time. And I think the biggest, in all aspects, outdoor life, yoga, other places, I think the biggest part is just making sure that our languaging's inclusive, our imagery and marketing's inclusive, and that we're providing some equity too. If it's out of someone's like ability to pay for it, that there is some option to volunteer, to go to classes like we host at Building Hope Foundation, and provide that.
Okay, thank you.
Leslie, thanks for putting your hat in. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
All right, John Warner is next. Any of you know this guy?
He's been riding bicycles like a man half his age.
Hello, John.
Hi, Eric. How are you doing?
Good. We can't see you. Do you have video available?
I do. Oh, wait. Here we go.
There we go.
Got it.
Oh, sir.
It's great to see everybody. Boy, you guys have got a great group of candidates, and you've done a great job running through the list. I want you to know that I've applied for this vacancy simply as a placeholder to finish out Gary's term. I have no desire to go beyond 19 months. I just think I have a lot of experience to help the council and the town through this extraordinarily difficult next 12 to 19 months. I've got a medical background. I understand a lot of statistics about COVID-19. I lived through the AIDS epidemic. I understand universal precautions, infection control, and I've read 14 budgets with the town of Breckenridge over the last 20 years. So I think I can hit the ground running.
Thank you, John. Questions for John? Kelly.
Dr. Warner, I was just wondering if you have any specific input with your background at the community care clinic, how the town might do a good job of helping some of our immigrant population have better access to or have adequate access.
Well, you were breaking up a little bit there, Kelly. I think you were asking about how can the town facilitate access to the community care clinic? Is that correct? Okay. Well, I think the fact that you're aware of the community care clinic, it's great. I think there needs to be conversations between the two, much like Helen Royal and I had with you guys a couple of months ago. You need to be aware of how we're doing. Are we fully open? Is dental open? Is behavioral health open, et cetera? I think it's a way to achieve racial equity for access to medical care, dental care, and mental health care. So the fact that you're aware of it, I think it's great.
Dick?
Thanks for your service all these years. Do you see any, I mean, obviously there's similarities, but do you see any differences in our situation of today, or really just governing today as opposed to when you served?
Yeah, I do. I think Jen answered it well. Your transparency is terrific. The weekly talks, the COVID talks that Eric has done has been terrific. I know you all work at your committee assignments in a very diligent manner. So I think council has improved, and I think it's been an evolution. It's quite different than 1998 when I first started than now. And I think it's been a wonderful evolution.
Other questions, Aaron?
Was there something, or can you name anything that after you left council that you want to get done, or you felt like, oh, if I had just done X?
Oh yeah, I'd love to tell you I did everything right, but I know I didn't. I can't think of anything specifically, but I do know that after 4 years of not being on council, I miss understanding what the information conduit is. You guys get such great information. I have never wanted to be an armchair quarterback, and you really know what you're doing when you're sitting in council, sitting in the work sessions. And I think it's a very facilitative sort of learning and governing.
Jeffrey?
Hey, John, I'm going to ask you kind of the same question I asked Leslie Glenn. How can we get in the Hispanic community, which is just an integral part of our workforce, more involved in some of the joys that you and I love? Hiking, biking, skiing, cross-country skiing and whatnot. Do you have any, I mean, obviously it's a tough question, and I know Building Hope now has a Spanish-speaking yoga instructor, but any thoughts on that?
Well, I was thinking about it just the other day when I was riding my bike. It would be wonderful if we had a cadre of docents who could take young people of color, youth, etc., into the backcountry, on cross-country skis, on bicycles. I know Aspen years ago had a program for $100. You got everything you needed to go skiing. Well, with this coming winter being a real question mark, why not take these kids on the bus up to the trailhead at Baldy and take them skiing? Why not take them, put together a group of bicycles and take them bicycling? Why not invite them? That's what I would do.
Outstanding. All right. Did Dean ever show up, Chris?
Thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you.
John,
thanks.
He's been non-responsive, and he hasn't responded to emails.
Okay. All right. We'll assume that Dean is no longer interested in, or since none of us really know what's going on there. For all the candidates that are listening still, thank you very much. We know how difficult it is to answer random questions. All of you did such a tremendous job on both your letters and the answers to the written questions. It was, that's what makes this town so amazing, is that people do care and they do want to get involved. Please, unfortunately only one of you gets to be on council this time, but in 2 years we have an election. And before that, we have all kinds of other stuff we do. Some of you came up with some really unique ideas and have some really unique skill sets that I think we as a council would really like to tap into. So, make sure you're joining us for meetings. Reach out to us anytime you want. And again, thank you very much for taking the opportunity and taking the chance on being on council. So thank you all. All right, we're going to move on to the rest of the meeting, beginning with Planning Commission decisions. Anybody have any comments or questions on Planning Commission decisions for the last meeting, which would be the 18th of August. There was only one thing really at the 18th.
Nothing much.
Anything? All right, excellent. We move on to legislative review. We begin with the second reading of the special event ordinance revision. Tim?
That's me. This ordinance comes on for second reading. You'll recall that Shannon Haynes explained it very well at the meeting 2 weeks ago. This ordinance does amend the town's special events ordinance, primarily with respect to virtual events and street art. There are no changes to the ordinance from first reading.
Any questions for Tim?
I have a comment, because I know when this was posted on the Summit Daily and all over, there were so many comments about, I think that a lot of people misunderstood this. You have to have a physical presence in order for this to apply. And I don't know how, but somehow that was misinterpreted. So I'm just saying it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on, dark sky conformance. Tim, second reading.
Actually, Julia's going to do this one.
Julia, hello.
Hello, Mayor and Town Council. This is the second reading for the amendment to our exterior lighting chapter, and there are no changes since the first reading. This essentially moves exterior lighting fixture conformance dates from July 2022 to July 2025 and allows for a permanent style retrofit for those exterior fixtures that are existing.
Thank you, Julia. Any questions? No? All right. See you tonight. XL gas line easements for second reading, Tim.
These are two ordinances. Each one would authorize the granting of utility easements to public service company over certain town-owned parcels. The only changes to both ordinances from first reading is a request tonight to convert the ordinances from non-emergency ordinances, which become effective 35 days after second reading. And we would like to ask the council to convert it to an emergency ordinance, both of the ordinances as emergency ordinances this evening. This would be an accommodation to the construction schedule that Excel Public Service Company has suggested to us. We view at staff level, these are essentially being non-controversial. We hope the council would agree.
Excellent. Questions?
Tim, you will remind us when we come to the regular meeting that this is an emergency ordinance in case someone is inclined to make a motion.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay,
I will do that. And I would like to remind the council an emergency ordinance under the charter requires 5 affirmative votes to pass.
Okay, yeah, I knew that.
Yeah, you
sure.
All right, we move on. Ordinance making new Breckenridge Free Ride Transit Plan, July 2020, a co-relative document under the Development Code, also a second reading.
This is the first piece of legislation the council will have in front of it this evening concerning the new transit master plan. This ordinance, if passed on second reading, will amend the town's development code, and particularly with respect to a list of what the development code calls correlative or related documents. Right now in that list, there is the old transit master plan. This ordinance, if adopted on second reading this evening, will eliminate the reference to the old transit plan and replace it with a reference to the new transit plan. There are really no changes since first reading.
Thank you, Tim. Questions? All righty. Welcome Center small cell lease for first reading.
That's Julia again.
Julia.
Thank you. I don't know if I'm frozen on your screen as I am on mine, but the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, as well as the state of Colorado passed regulations regarding deployment of small cell technology in municipal rights of ways. And those regulations make those small cell facilities more readily accessible nationwide by removing a lot of the local governmental authority. In reaction to that, the town adopted some small cell design guidelines in 2019. We are working on modifying those design guidelines, and during one of those work sessions in April of this year, the town council suggested, if staff could work with these cell providers and get them to locate outside the town rights of way, preferably on town buildings, specifically in the conservation district, that would result in reducing visual clutter there in our historic district, which we worked so hard to protect through our design standards in our review process. So we went back to AT&T when we had some discussions with them. They were looking at locating near the Blue River Plaza off of Main Street on a freestanding pole that was quite tall and in larger scale than we are used to seeing in our typical light poles along the street. They agreed to work with us and locate on the Welcome Center. And so that is has been processed, that development permit, and you'll see that photo of what that is going to look like in your packet on page 51. It's a little small cylinder on the top of the Welcome Center roof. That is a staff overview for the development permit. However, because this lease would exceed 1 year, it is required by town code to be approved by the town council. The primary lease points would be that it's a 10-year term with a 5-year renewal option, and the cost of the lease would be $1,065 per year, and they would be located like all on the rooftop for that lease. So the only visible piece that you're going to see is what you see in that photo. The rest is hidden behind the parapet as far as the equipment. And the lease is attached for your review. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take those.
Thank you, Julia. Kelly.
I just had a small question. This one's on the building, and I was wondering if it could be on.
I'm not sure I totally heard you, but you asked about why it's located where it is. Okay. They couldn't locate it on the back because of the area that they're trying to cover is really on the street.
Okay.
It is on the side outside of the Blue River, of the actual plaza. So originally it was next to right up to the plaza on that rooftop. So they did locate it to the southern portion of the roof, which we were happy about.
Dick, you have
Yeah, who is New Singular Wireless?
But that's just, I guess, the legal name for AT&T's cellular entity.
Dick, AT&T does business under several different business entity names. This is one that they own and control.
Gotcha. And so this will just be solely for AT&T. This won't be something that could be shared with other cellular carriers.
Well, right now it's just with AT&T.
There's potential to share, do you think, or?
That co-location issue is one that we continue to look at. We've been told that a lot of times co-location is not technically feasible. So I would not expect co-location in this particular facility. Julia, do you disagree with that, or do you know something I don't?
As far as that it's a very small, 3 square foot cylinder. I don't think that that itself would have anything else in it. It's probably as small as it possibly can be. As with regard to, can another provider potentially use the Welcome Center roof? I think that that is a possibility. And if so, they would submit their own, that provider would submit a development permit to us, and you would see a lease before you as well for that provider. The reason why it's not, sorry, go ahead, Tim.
I think that's much more likely is that another application would come from Verizon or some other wireless carrier to locate on the roof of the Welcome Center.
Yeah.
I might also point out to council that the form of the lease that's attached is the town's form. We didn't want to use one that was that AT&T had been using. This particular lease form started out as one of Ken Fellman's lease forms, but we made some modifications to it to make it work better for Breckenridge. But I'm very comfortable with the form of the lease.
Dennis, you had a question?
I do, and I'm not sure if it's for Julia or Tim, but it says that the town code requires that we exceed a 1-year lease. But entering into a 10-year lease, if technology changes significantly, are we still stuck with what they have on the roof? Or will they just, is it in the lease that it will upgrade?
Well, let me take one cut at it first, Julia. The 1-year provision, Dennis, is has to do with when leases are required to be approved by town ordinance. A lease with a term of less than 1 year can be done by Rick administratively. Any lease that with options is longer than 1 year must be approved by ordinance through the council.
Thank you. It does, but the technology piece, will AT&T, if the technology changes where in 10 years that this is old technology, will they, through the lease, automatically upgrade?
The lease does not require that. I think the thought process is we'll allow AT&T to use their own competitive determination whether upgrading to some other new technology is in their interest. I don't think that we, as the, in this case, the landlord, can actually tell them what kind of small cell to put in.
But I think, so if they no longer need it though, they could come to us and say, hey, would you like to terminate the lease? And we could say,
yes, Aaron, that's absolutely correct. You know, the philosophy, as Julia mentioned here, is that we want to encourage the placement of these small cells outside the right of way. And that's really the whole basis of this lease. We think it's a better, much better location from the town standpoint than having it on a new cell pole or on a street light.
This is a huge win for us. Yeah. This is what we have been railing against. Instead of a pole right in the center of the plaza there. This is a good one. I'm really, Julia and Tim, thank you for the hard work making this happen. This is fantastic.
Eric, I also want to thank Julia as well as AT&T. AT&T worked with us on this this lease, and it's much appreciated.
You know, Tim, hopefully, while there's probably no legal precedent, hopefully this sets a precedent for how, you know, we can point to for how we'd like stuff to look in town.
Let's hope that's the way it works out.
I echo that, Julia. Thank you. Strong work. That's great.
I just wanted to add for Dennis, you know, it's pretty common, Dennis, that once a cellular site is approved on a building, for example, in town, that they come through with upgrades to their and change outs to their equipment fairly regularly. What I've seen so far hasn't been really a change in appearance, but more change in the technology and equipment that's inside of that, what we've already approved. So I'm not sure if they would change the appearance of it over time, but I would expect them to change the technology inside of it at least, as to what we've seen so far in the last 8 years or so.
Very good. Questions? All righty. Commission Transit Master Plan Adoption Resolution.
This is the second document or second action item for the council tonight dealing with the new transit master plan. This resolution, if adopted, would make the new transit plan part of the town's overall master plan, or what we sometimes call the comprehensive plan. And we have an ordinance in place that tells the council and staff how to amend the town's master plan, and it calls for the approval after a public hearing of a resolution, and that's what this resolution will do. Notice has been given. The only real special notice we had to give was to the Board of County Commissioners. I have not heard of any comment. So I guess at this point, it's just up to the council.
Excellent. Thank you, Tim. Any questions for Tim? No? All right. Submission of a grant to the Colorado Division of Housing for Alta Verde Housing Development, also resolution. Hello, Nicole.
Hello, Mayor and Town Council. So this resolution is to approve the submission of a community development block grant application to the Colorado Division of Housing. The request is for $960,000, and the purpose is for the development of Alta Verde. If we're awarded, the money will be allocated to the town, and the town will basically loan this $960,000 to Gorman, and they will, at the end of either 40 years or at the time the project refinances, which is the most likely scenario, in 12 to 15 years, the money will be paid back to the town and will go into the town's housing fund as an additional $960,000 to be used for CDBG eligible activity. So I am happy to answer any questions, but I think we are excited to, in 12 to 15 years, have this money come back into the housing fund. So yeah.
Excellent. Questions? What's the likelihood of getting this, Nicole?
High. It's not, this isn't really a super competitive application. Really what happened was we were going to go through the Division of Housing for state funds, and with COVID, that revenue stream that would have made this money available went away. And so we had a couple options, and this was one of the options, was to apply for a federal grant, and this was the preferred option.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Questions about this?
Oh, there was a question online from Evan Harris that asked if Alta Verde is affordable housing. I just wanted to confirm that it is.
Yes, it is. Nicole, you want to give a 2-minute, what is Alta Verde?
Yeah, definitely.
Very important one for us.
Yeah, Alta Verde is an 80-unit apartment project that will be located on the McCain subdivision right behind the water treatment plant. The project received the competitive 9% low-income housing tax credit award this year. So the rents will be at or below 60% AMI throughout the entire project, which is the most critical need in our community. We have some rents even at 30 and 50% AMI. Another really exciting part of this project is we've received a grant from the Division of Local Affairs for the project to get solar panels to be able to achieve net zero status. So as of now, there's no plans to connect gas to the site or anything like that. So it's really going to be one of the first, large scale housing projects that are going to be net zero in the town. So it's even in the county. So it's a really cool affordable housing project, and it will be breaking ground next March. And we will be, our goal is to be open in the winter of 2022. So super exciting project.
Thanks, Nicole. For those of you listening, this is a real home run for the town. It's 80 units in an AMI category that we have a lot of difficulty serving because it is difficult to build cheaply like that. But with this, what's called LIHTC grants, and finding a developer like Gorman to secure those grants and then use them to build this, we can really affect some low rents for that pool. So this is a huge, and thank you, Nicole, for all your work and Lori's work on this. we're all super proud of you and of this process so far. So thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
All righty, gang. We move on to, there's one more question. How do we determine who's eligible for housing? How many people will the housing project assist? It'll be 80 units, differing sizes, so more than 80 people. And we do all our own internal testing for the AMI categories. The AMI categories themselves come from the federal government. So if you make X, you're in X category. And there's more about that on our website, on the housing tab on the website, where you can learn about the whole AMI categories. And that's how we do all of our housing. And Nicole is really good at this, and I am terrible. So,
Eric, just for clarification, though, this it's going to be built and managed by Gorman, not the town. So they will be doing all of the eligibility assessment and everything. So.
Eric,
And there will be marketing if people are interested in getting qualified and on wait list closer to the project being completed. So keep an eye out in 2022 for those if you're interested in applying for the project.
And
very similar to the Wintergreen project going on over by Keystone right now. So.
And Eric, just to add, that housing section of the website that Nicole put together is excellent. There's a ton of information for those that are seeking workforce housing.
And there are, I believe, are there 3-bedroom units for families or even 2-bedroom? I think families are eligible, certainly.
Yes, definitely families. They're 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom units.
Erin, you were going to add something?
I was just going to address that question about families.
Thank you.
Not that we say you have to be a family or you don't have to be a family. We don't discriminate that way.
Do you have any news to tell us?
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God, Jeffrey, you're the worst.
Jeffrey, things not to say in council.
Oh.
Right? Okay, that wraps up legislative review. Let's move on to the manager's report, beginning with public projects update. Shannon Smith is with us.
Hi. I do have a new project to introduce to you before we go to the memo, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
Okay. One of the Broken Lance bridges, the ones on the east side of the loop, needs repair due to corrosion on the metal decking. Right now, we're working on finalizing the design and the cost for it, and we hope to be able to bring that to you in early September. We would have to move quickly to get this repair done before November 1st. So I wanted to sort of introduce the project and take any questions, and if I need to bring more information back to you at a subsequent work session.
Do you have a contractor in mind already?
We've been working with Stan Miller.
You know, right now there is a steel plate over. Apparently, what I've been told is you can see through the bridge. That's how, yeah. There are sections of it that you can see through, and there's a steel plate over it, and the steel plate is not going to, obviously can't be there when we're plowing snow, et cetera. And so I don't really think this is something we have a choice to do. I've talked to staff. I think we're going to have to get it done, and I don't know. I mean, we hate to throw out numbers early on, but it's, you know, it's still going to be pricey. Is it around $1 million maybe? I don't know.
I'm hoping it's less than that. We were looking at all the different options with the engineers as far as how much we had to repair, but it turns out we need to replace all of the decking. It's a pretty simple bridge. It's metal decking covered in asphalt, but we have to go the whole length of it and the whole width. I'm hoping it's in the 500 to $1 million range.
If this is time critical, what's the quickest way you can get authorization from the council, other than waiting till the next meeting, which is, you know, next month?
I'm sure we can find a way to get authorization if we can before the.
Well, what questions do you have? I mean, we all we really need is to make you aware. We'll enter into an agreement. We don't, typically it would involve some sort of, you know, we do an appropriation. She's going to see if there's any money left in any of the capital reserve money that could be applied towards this. But we'll, you know, I think if you all agree this has to get done, then you just give us a thumbs up and it'll be part of as part of the appropriation is when you formally adopt the change of the budget. So
Sounds good to me. Everybody else good with that? Let's just get this done. It seems critical. All right. All right. Other things on your?
I don't have anything else new, but I can take questions on the updates in the memo. We are going to start the utility work on Coin ahead of the river reconstruction and the new culvert, but that's Excel's dollars. It's not. We're not spending any money to do that.
Dick.
Is there opportunity to expand the coverage for the downtown Wi-Fi?
In what regard, Dick? There's always opportunity to expand it. You add more things, but into certain areas, you think there's areas lacking on the map, or?
It seems to me there's just a number of holes in there.
So Dick, Chris can speak to this, but what we did was set up Wi-Fi points in locations where we knew we could install them. So our buildings where we don't have to put up other infrastructure or get permission. So and we're trying to stay within that $100,000 budget that we had set earlier. So I think there's certainly opportunities for us to expand. We're just trying to keep it kind of tight to this, trying to get something installed this year. You know, and we're already going to be a little bit crunched on some of the fiber install, but this is what we felt like we could get done in 2020. And Chris, do you want to add to that?
Just that the locations that you see that we're distributing Wi-Fi services from are town-owned facilities. So right now we're just leveraging those sites. If we want to fill in gaps, we would have to start speaking with, you know, property owners to see if we can enter into agreements with them to distribute services from their buildings.
Dick, if you'll recall, we talked about maybe pushing or staff was talking about maybe pushing this off for a year while they worked on a bigger thing, and we said no, let's just get something done now. I think this is a great something done now.
I agree. And this, so what I'm hearing is this is easy enough to expand on to a year from now or whenever.
So yeah, maybe phase 2 could involve private-public partnerships. I would see this as a benefit to restaurants and whatnot if they're.
We don't want that. That is not what this is for. This is only for outdoor Wi-Fi.
No, I get that. I get that. But even if a visitor is standing outside a restaurant, you know, looking at a menu, you know, and that sort of thing, the way that people use their phones as they're walking around town, if they're being dropped, they might be, you know, I could see it as a draw. No, I understand that restaurants are not to use this for their own.
Really, if you remember, the big thing is to get people off cell while they're doing that, while they're out there looking for restaurant information or what to do in town. This will get them on Wi-Fi instead of cell, and we can, you know, use this for some other things too. So
yeah, absolutely. I think it's great.
Everybody good with this? Go forward. Okay. Thank you, Chris and Shannon, for making this happen. Any other questions on public projects update? How about parking and transportation update?
I should let you know that Excel did not start their night work as advertised yesterday. They ran into some problems locating the fiber in the roadway. I should be hearing back from them Thursday or Friday to see if we could start next Monday.
Our fiber, the stuff we just put in? Oh, I was going to say, because it's right under the patch. You don't even
Oh, that one's easy to find.
Hey, actually, if they push it out another week, it's better for us. You know,
That's
every
true.
week they push it out is
That's true.
less traffic in town, and you know, it's. I hope you all got a chance to look at the roundabout design. I think it looks nice. So.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions on PNT update? Traffic numbers were massive, as you can see.
Massive. Especially that July number.
Yeah. I mean, it is insane that our traffic counts are so much higher during COVID.
Well,
I think we're going to see that this winter as well.
What was that, buddy?
I think we're going to see that this winter as well.
It is incredible. This is not happening everywhere in the country. We are blessed to be where we are and be able to take advantage of the business volumes that we have been as a town.
You know, and we really had very little usage of the airport lot this summer.
Huh.
So, you know, not exactly sure where all the cars went, but they seemed to find parking. And we know that, our parking lot's filled up. F lot was pretty, Tiger Dredge, right? They were pretty consistent. But yeah.
It's good stuff. All right, housing childcare update. Anything to add? Nicole's back and Lori's back.
Guys,
Anything to add?
I don't think we have anything to add. I don't know, Lori, if you have anything additional from the notes, but we just wanted to be on to ask if you guys have any questions. Obviously, one of the items in the notes is one of the big conversations we'll be having tonight. So we were just wanted to be available for questions unless Lori has anything she'd like to add.
I have a question about the housing. Are we considering renting out some of these buy down units that we haven't paid or that we haven't sold? I'm sorry.
Yes, I was talking to Rick about that this morning, and I think it makes a lot of sense for the winter season. We definitely don't want to see them sit vacant, so we have 9 buy down units that we could make available at very reasonable rents.
And I think make sure they're very reasonable.
Kelly, I think our approach, we'd like to target more of a business lease type thing where we're working with a business directly to see if they could use it for employees so that they take, I'd like the business to take some ownership in helping to make sure that it's protected.
Sure.
They are an investment. We don't want to get them trashed because we're going to try to sell them again. So, I think we'll start looking at that if everybody thinks that's worth exploring.
I think that's great. Thanks.
I like the idea of a master lease with businesses as well, Rick. I think that's a good idea.
And I think we're open to a shorter lease too. I mean, if they need it for only 6 months over a winter season, that would allow us to get it back on the market next summer or something, which I think works well. And so, yeah.
How do people find out about that, Rick? Is with our website?
Well, we'll have to talk about how we push that out. I think we probably want to work through our business contacts and our retail and all of the restaurant group, obviously out there, and work with our different associations to push it out to our local businesses and kind of see what the need is and what the desire might be. We'd want to target, look at our units and see. I mean, we have several 2-bedrooms, which probably work better for. They could get a couple employees in there. So
Rick and I talked about this as another part of our COVID strategy for businesses in town and some of the assistance we can give. So, low rents, and the reason for having businesses involved is, like Rick said, so they don't get trashed by a young Jeffrey Bergeron.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not even that concerned about the rent as much as making sure that it's that the building the unit stays nice. So when we do sell it, I think it's an amenity to the businesses. And so what's good for the business is good for the town.
Other questions on housing or childcare?
Eric, I'd like to just spend a minute while I got Lori and Nicole here, and we're a little bit ahead of schedule. And I want to talk for a minute about the project that we put out there to get, we entered into a letter of intent to do 18 micro units on the rec center site. There's been some information that's been put out. I know some of you have received some communication with people thinking that it's 270% over density, and I'd like to address any questions that council might have, and I'd also like to maybe throw out some options as we look at this a little more. And Dick is on the housing committee with Jeffrey, and Dick and I spent some time out at that site today, just looking at it again and understanding that layout. And first of all, I think it's important to know that particular site is not going to be subdivided. So it's part of the larger, 26 acre, 29 acre parcel, all one parcel that encompasses all of Kingdom Park. And so that density issue, that multiplier that is being used is not accurate with regards to that. It's also I believe it straddles 2 land use districts. Is it 19 and 3 or something like that? Or?
Yeah, it's 9.2 and 3.
Okay. And they both have different qualifications, of what's allowed in there, et cetera. When you talk, as a part of a project, a town project, we are required to post it to neighbors, but that happens when it goes in front of the planning commission, not at a work session with the council or at a work session with the planning commission. So that posting goes out 10 days in advance of its first hearing at the planning commission. So I also want you to know, we're aware, right? I think there's some concerns, and you talk to neighbors, and certainly there is a mobile home that is very close to this build. There's also one that is within probably 4 or 5 feet of the retaining wall that was built on the adjoining property that the town sold to the Rockneys years ago, and they built housing on it. And that trailer is closer than what this trailer where we want to build would be, that retaining wall. There is, right where the trailer is, there's about a 15-foot setback. The closest area, which is up in the corner, but it's not close to the trailer, is probably the closest one where it's like 10 feet on the immediate design. But there's no trailer right in that area. So it's farther away from the trailer. So I'm not that concerned about that. Lori and I want people to know we hear their concerns and we look at this. Lori and I looked at the drawing today, and we think that we could, kind of push part of that up to the south a little bit so we could get it even a little further away from the trailer. We have some space at the front lot that we could rotate that building a little bit to the south, and that would put it a little closer to the entrance there, the drive access on coming into the rec center. We think that would grab a few more feet and hopefully help separate that. When we heard 18 units, we were surprised, right? 18 units. We were looking at this site originally to maybe put a quad or something, maybe four vertical 2-bedroom townhome type things, a little similar to what's already there. Is that what we were looking at? One of the things we tossed around.
Yeah.
I think it's important to know that while there may be less units, you could end up with the same amount of people, right? Because it's not uncommon then for, at least 2 or 3 people to be renting those units to try to help make the rent. And so you still may end up with the same number of people. We had debate over laundry. We had debate over outside storage. That all adds impact to the neighborhood. I think if the council is supportive, I think as staff, we would like to go back and say, let's lower this to 15 units. Let's repurpose 3 of those units. Let's move our storage indoors and try to create, in a couple of those spaces, let's try to create, an indoor locker area that each tenant has access to for their bikes. And let's take one of those indoor units and make it, a shared laundry facility on site. That lowers it to 15 units from 18. I think it lowers it. We've talked about the feasibility of calling these a single occupancy unit. I think for the most part, that serves what we're trying to do. But I think that's worth looking at. That, and Lori thinks that that's a need and that's a reasonable request for these types of units to have them be a single occupancy unit. You know, it's always been my feeling that the town, that part of these or one building should be reserved for our town employees, because we need to offset the loss of some town employee housing that we're going to have in a couple of years with the loss of the Schoonover building when we finalize, you know, the parking structure and that whole area in the downtown. And so I think, you know, I think we have a little more control over who's in there and how it's governed in a certain way, and I hope that would bring some comfort maybe to the people, you know, that might live close to this. And certainly one of the concerns I heard from somebody was, you know, these are people that are just seasonal ski area employees. They have no roots in the community. They're just here to party, and we're going to end up with their beer cans in our backyard. And, you know, I think we can, maybe we can have some control over that, certainly with that. And I think also our intent is to try to work a relationship with a business versus a person. We've always said these are prime to master lease to businesses, help get some ownership. And so if you're supportive, number one, I hope you still would like to move forward with this, and I'll hush in a minute and Dick can chime in if he wants, but I think we still very much support this. We very much think this is needed. We think it's a great location to try this. We are willing to go down to 15 units. I think allows us to repurpose some space and free up outdoor space and make it a little more usable maybe. And so I'd like to hear how you feel about that.
Go ahead, Dick.
Just a few comments. Yeah, Rick and I'm in full agreement with all of Rick's comments. We did spend some time over there this afternoon, and the survey posts for the corners of the lots are in place. So we could actually see, you know, what the offsets were and such that Rick's referring to. And I think he's very accurate. It's going to be very similar to the adjacent property in terms of how close, you know, the retaining wall and the fence would be to the trailers. You know, I think by trying to move them a little to the south, it can help us with some vegetation, some screening with landscaping, which, you know, always softens it some and I think will help as well. Just one thing to add, Rick didn't mention, I think there's enormous need for workforce housing that's affordable for single people to live. I know for me, I have some key employees who are currently living in crowded conditions that lead to party conditions, and they really are trying to get out of that and outgrow that, and it's tough when that's all you can afford. So I just think there's enormous for $600 to live by yourself. I mean, that's unheard of in this town, and I think it's a much healthier situation that many of our employees are forced to live in. So I think the need is enormous. I think the compromises that Rick has presented are very reasonable, and I think they will change the impacts to the neighborhood. Yeah, I'm a strong believer in master lease. This is perfect for a combination of town employees and master leases with businesses with some HOA rules and you know, where we can really ensure that this isn't a party scene. I don't think it will be. I think it's gonna be the opposite. This is people that are looking to get out of that party scene. So I'm fully in favor and supportive as well with Rick.
Thanks, Dick. Dennis, question or?
Yeah, I walked that site yesterday morning. I had a pretty good idea based on where it's going to be. I lived in that trailer park. The first place I lived in Breckenridge, I owned a trailer there, and it was party central in the trailer park. So, you know, we can do the best we can, but I'm fully in support of this project going forward. And you're right. Maybe we need to make tweaks. include the laundry room, do the best we can with storage, but it's an awesome place for people to get their start.
Other questions or comments from the council?
Yeah, I'm the other member of the housing committee. I'm into it as well. And there again, kind of like what Dick mentioned, I think, you know, when I was in the service industry, I always wanted to live alone so I could live a quieter lifestyle. So and if, you know, if I wanted to party, I'd go to Dennis's trailer and whoop it up. But for the most part, I think it's, if we put like a deed restriction as far as like single occupancy, some of the tweaks that Rick mentioned, I don't think this will be as effective, or I mean, as a annoyance to the adjacent owners.
Kelly?
Yeah, I am so glad that Aaron brought up the laundry facility, because I've heard a ton about that over the last week, probably more than any other issue. And so obviously it's an important one, and I'm glad that we can consider putting it in the facility. And then one other thing I would like to say is I think we have a lot of young professionals who, you know, would benefit from being able to live by themselves. We rent above our garage, and it rents in like a day every time, because people want their own four walls. And hopefully that we'll be able to benefit some people. And I'm certainly looking for an opportunity to benefit some childcare workers. So I don't know if that's going to be something that'll work out, but I hope that we'll be able to consider that.
Aaron, childcare centers could be priority businesses for those master leases, maybe.
Yeah.
I think this is great. I understand that there are concerns, and there are concerns with the neighbors. I agree with what Dick was saying. It's hard to have a party in 250 square feet. I think that's really tough. I mean, I think people can have 1-2 people over, but that does not a party make. So I think by design, it's something great to try. And I love the fact that it's a lower rent. If we want our community to thrive here and not just survive, I think sometimes lower rents are needed so that people can save money for a house, so that people can save for things that they need and plan for their future. So I think it's a good project.
Yeah, I agree. I want to be sensitive to the comments from the neighbors, though, whether you agree with them or not. We need to make sure that we do the right thing as the neighbors of the project. This will now go through Planning Commission. There will be plenty of time for public comment on them. For anybody listening, if you do want to comment on these kind of things, the place to not do it is social media, because honestly, most of us don't go there anymore because it is a very caustic place for everything that we do. And honestly, this job's hard enough without hearing some of the things that people write from somewhere else, because a lot of those people don't live here. So if you have a serious concern about what's going on with something that the council does, go to mayor@townofbreckenridge.com, send us a thoughtful email, and we're happy to work around these things. I think some of the things that Rick has suggested are answers to some of the concerns we've heard, and that's generally how we do business. We do like to hear people's concerns, and frustrations, but that's the way to do it, not on one man's junk, honestly. All right.
Thank you all for taking the time to do that. Also, just on their P&T with the parking structure, you're going to see a really big crane showing up out there, I believe, within 2 weeks. So starting on September 18th, they're going to start setting the precast concrete, starting in the southwest corner, and then working out, you'll start seeing things go vertical out there, which is exciting. You'll probably get, if you're going to get feedback over the course of the winter, people are going to go, I can't believe you're building such an ugly parking structure, because all you're going to see is gray concrete walls. None of the fancy stuff goes on this thing until next summer. So
I got a tour today, and Shannon pointed out we're going to build the 4-story section first. So it will look way worse, but trust us, it'll look way better before it's done. And the crane is on site. They haven't built the boom on it yet, but it's massive. It's massive.
Did they bring the crane to build a crane? What was that, Aaron?
I said that'll be some good entertainment.
Yeah.
Good free entertainment to watch.
We get to drive it.
Oh.
Councilmen do. Any other questions for Shannon or Rick about the parking structure? All right. Shall we move on to committee reports, which there are none?
Yeah. I'm really excited to get you to financials.
I know. Well, with that segue, Brian.
Hello all. You have in your packet the financials through July 31st, which are largely reflective of the collections from June. We don't really have too much to talk about on the expense side of things. We're holding to the revised spending plan, so there's really no items of import to report there. But as we all know, we're all very interested in seeing where our major revenue streams are ending up. And as you can see in the packet, like I said, we go through June there, with June coming in at 21% below prior year. But really the big news is Heather was able to compile what we did through July, and July 2020 is break even with July 2019, down 0.33%. So functionally the same business activity level that we had last year. So obviously that's great news relative to what we were expecting. If you take that information, you combine it with what we already have in the packet, we will be down 18% year to date from 2019. So that's due to a number of factors, but really the main one being where we're seeing a higher activity than we thought we were going to see when this whole thing started.
Let that sink in for a minute.
I'm sorry?
Let that sink in for a minute, Council, on the things that we talked about when this started, where you thought we would be at the end of, at this point in the summertime. With
Can you say that again? When you say year to date, you're saying from January to now this year compared to last year, and how much are we down?
18% when you look at prior year compared to this year through the end of July. We don't have the August stuff yet.
Didn't you come on and tell us we're going to be down 60%?
Yes, I did. That was me.
All right. I'm glad you're wrong.
I take full responsibility.
Okay.
I was pushing for more than that too, Jeffrey.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
And while we couldn't be more excited and happy, and I think we all were getting a sense that we were going to salvage a decent summer out of this, all we had to do is look at those traffic numbers, right? And I truly believe this was a great team effort. I think the meetings, the communication, the groups the work groups we put together, made up of our business community that we meet every Wednesday, council holding numerous special meetings so that you could act quickly and swiftly, and you weren't afraid to spend a few pennies up front, knowing that you were going to create an atmosphere that made people hopefully feel safe and want to come here. And it's nice to be able to pat ourselves on the back, right? And take the success. But we still enter the winter somewhat optimistic, or reserved, I guess, more conservative, because, we don't have the same options for expanded capacity in the winter that we were able to do in the summer. In the winter, those December through March, those 4 months account for, Brian could probably tell you, 65% of our revenues, if not more, for the whole year. Those are the 4 biggest months. And so, we're still, but I'm also feel like we can be creative, and we could, we did it once, we could do it again, right? We could try to be, try these different things, and, hey, if maybe we won't be even or 10% down, but if we can manage to be 20% down or 25% down, to me, that will be a success in those winter months for us. So.
Rick and Shannon, thank you for your guidance through that, by the way. Brian, I do have a question. Construction being down that much surprises me. What do you think that's due to? Because housing starts are still pretty strong, right?
Yeah, it would be tough for me to point to a particular cause for that being up or down. We do have all the filers in there, so it's not a missing return or a late return or anything of that nature. But as you see, construction has really taken one of the larger dips of all the sectors, aside from accommodations and retail for a while there. So I guess
my biggest surprise is that they moved on. They weren't shut down like retail and restaurants.
And our permit numbers are down a little bit, but not down that much, Dennis. So
we can take a deeper dive into it. It's a fairly simple sector in terms of number of emitters there. We do have a lot of out-of-town vendors in there, but
I don't know that we need to take a deeper dive. I was just asking the question just for curiosity.
No, I don't really have an anecdotal reason or any other data on why that would be down, but.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I was just gonna go over. Sorry, just get back to my notes. And as Rick was saying, to put this in perspective, 14% of our revenue comes from December. So I would not say, we're by any means, locked into this only being down 18% for the year, but certainly so far so good. And we did actually have one sector up over prior year. First time the sector has beaten private year since this whole thing started. Jeffrey, can you guess what it was?
Retail.
You got it. So one sector was able to beat 2019 so far.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
For the kids.
And our real estate transfer tax actually for the month of August right now stands at $812,000 in revenue versus $720,000 budgeted. So I guess that would be another sector that is, well, it's not up over prior year, but it's up over budget. And from what we're hearing anecdotally from the title companies, they are asking us to make sure we're ready to process a lot because they are seeing a lot in the pipeline. And that's encouraging as well. Kind of like we talked about at last meeting, there might be this kind of pent up, not demand, but closings in the pipeline. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. But relatively good news, we'll call it.
Better news than we would have expected.
Yeah.
Man.
And that's all I got.
All right. Any other questions?
Just a comment. It really makes you worry about this coming year when you hear 65 or more % comes from December to March. It's going to be, we have a lot tougher of a road ahead.
We do. Fortunately, we've had good training over the last couple of months. So I think this group is ready to do the right things for the town. We are going to take a short break because Begley came on and we're all going to take a break since he's here. Just a short one. Let's make this, just take 5 minutes, stretch, everything else, and then we'll be back.
5:40.
I'll be back. Let's reconvene this work session. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Begley. Lori, are you going to lead this one off?
Yes. Actually, Nicole prepared a memo that's in your packet, but I thought I would lead it off. I started talking with Tom maybe about a month ago about a potential amendment to the annexation agreement. And then we introduced the committee to this concept at their August 11th meeting. But because of the significant nature of the changes, we really wanted to get to council sooner rather than later and get your input early in the process. I think council knows where this property is. It's basically about 45 acres that is between the Alta Verde property and the Welk. That's the Stan Miller property, annexation property, and then the Braddock Holdings annexation property, altogether about 45 acres. The existing annexation agreement, we started back in 2008. I actually remember working on that, and we thought it was great, but you know, we have learned a few things since 2008, and obviously our needs change, and the opportunity to tweak that annexation agreement is of interest. But it's important to remember that right now the annexation agreement allows 162 units. Of those 160, 105 are deed restricted units. The request is basically to increase the number of units by 122. Of the 122 new, 93 would be new deed restricted units, additional deed restricted units. So it's quite a big increase in the number of units, and it's particularly a big increase in the number of deed restricted units. But you know, there definitely could be some benefits to revisiting the annexation agreements. And we've talked to Tom about some things that we feel would be mandatory in order for any consideration of this type of increase. And those were, I think, spelled out in Nicole's letter, but restriction on some short-term rentals, perhaps some ADUs. Working with the town on a new alignment for the recreation path is viewed as a good opportunity. Then, you know, we definitely would love to revisit the AMI targets that are in the original annexation agreement. One significant change with this new plan, in addition to the increase in the number of units, all of the deed restricted units would be rental units. And we all know that rental is where our most significant need is right now, particularly rentals at 80% MI. And rentals are very difficult for anybody to produce, whether it's the private sector or the public sector. So I think, you know, the memo does a good job of spelling out, you know, some of what we believe could be considered public benefits associated with this. And I know Tom is on the meeting, so I think he can answer questions that the council might have. But I think it's most important that we understand early whether there's any interest in pursuing this, or whether, you know, the additional density is just too much to stomach. I think the density for the deed restricted, you know, we're very happy to see the rental component, but it would be in 3-story buildings. So, you know, that's, it's a more dense, for sure, development pattern. But in some ways that's good because it makes it very suitable for transit because of the density as opposed to sort of a more low density layout that's currently approved and contemplated in the existing annexation agreement. So that's my introduction, and I'm here to answer any questions just so that we can get, we can understand where the council's at in regard to this proposal.
Lori, how about some questions first for Lori before we move on to Tom?
I think my question's for Lori. Is this site in the floodplain and they'd need to raise it up out of the floodplain?
You know, maybe Tom will be able to answer this, but I believe that the floodplain was most significant on the property from Alta Verde South, but I would ask Tom to confirm.
It is not, it's not in the floodplain. We did a study, we did a LOMAR study with Kermit Miller, and both the Braddock properties as well as Stan Miller property are both out of the floodplain.
Okay, great. So it would be like 3 true stories, not like you have to raise it 10 feet and then put 3 stories on top of it.
Exactly. You know, I think what we're trying to do is model it after the town's Alta Verde project with a flatter roof and something along the lines of Moose Landing. We use that as sort of a model for the 3 stories. So we're trying to keep the overall height down, but it is a 3-story building. It probably, by code, it's probably a 2.5-story building.
Thanks, Tom. Other questions for Lori?
Lori, where the density will come from TDRs?
Yeah, the market rate density, Tom has indicated that he included acquiring, I think it's 29 additional TDRs. So it'll be a total of 39 TDRs because 9 were already required for the existing amount of density that was approved, that the developer would have to bring 9 TDRs. He's indicated that he's okay bringing another 29 additional TDRs.
So total TDRs, how much?
Right, paying the bank for those TDRs.
38.
38.
Okay.
How much does that cost?
It's a little over 3.2 million.
Yep.
And then the affordable housing density would come from the town, potential.
You know, the original annexation agreement contemplated that at that point, I think it was 105 units, that density for those deed restricted units would come from the town.
How many units of density would the town be donating for workforce housing?
Well,
20.
under the existing annexation, we are committed to bringing the density for 105 deed restricted units. I believe we would bring it at our ratio. I don't know if our ratio is still 1-to-1 or 1-to-2 at this point. Pardon me?
2 to 1.
2 to 1, yeah.
So, Laurie, right now, what's approved is 46 units, and half of those are deed restricted?
So in terms of what's allowed right now, in terms of units, 46 market rate units, and I'm just looking at my cheat sheet here. 46 market rate units, 116 market rate units for 162 units altogether is what's approved. There's a spreadsheet in your packet.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, but I thought that what is agreed upon was just 46, and Tom's hoping to include the Kermit, the Miller property as well.
Well, they're both under one annexation agreement right now.
Mm-hmm.
The Kermit property and Braddock Flats property, they're under one annexation agreement right now.
Right.
And, you know, within the Braddock Flats component of that property is 46 units. And Miller's portion of the property is 116 units for 162 units, of which 105 are deed restricted.
So if I might, Lori, it's 55 additional SFEs.
Yep.
Over the whole property.
When you look at SFEs versus units.
Over the 45 acres.
Yep.
And there's no short-term rentals under either agreement, though existing or?
No, it's not in the existing agreement at all.
Okay.
And there are short-term rentals, aren't there? In the proposed, all of the red units can be short-term rentals. So only 44 of the market rate units have a short-term deed restriction, right? Or short-term restriction. I think it's probably not deed restriction.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So I think
Not the duplexes along the river. It's the single families that are for interior. Yep.
The turquoise has no short-term rental, where the red can have short-term rental.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
Other questions?
So I'm looking at the, okay, we have the river, we have the red, and then we have the units in turquoise. And are those single family or duplex units, and are they short-term rentals? Are they for sale, or are they rentals?
The units along the units along the river are
they're red. They're red. The blue units in our packet are teal.
Right. Those are single family units, and those are the ones that we're proposing to have a short-term rental on.
And
restriction on.
So they're deed restricted, Tom.
They're not deed restricted, but they have a short-term rental deed restriction, I guess, would be on them. Those are approximately just under a quarter-acre lot for those homes, and they would have a short-term rental restriction on those 44 homes.
And they'll be for sale, Tom?
They will be.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they could all be second homes, right? that wouldn't, right? They could all be second homes.
Yeah.
They could be. Our goal is to set up a floor plan that works for both the second homeowner as well as a local who has a additional spot for an ADU unit in that smaller single family home. So that's really our goal. We're taking the family room that would be part of a single family home and either creating a family room out of that, or if the owner so chooses, that we could create an ADU unit. And this family room would be a bonus room, if you will, over the garage.
And that ADU unit, would it have to be, how does that work? If they rent it out, it has to go to, that would have to have a deed restriction, is that true?
Yes.
Mhm.
Whether
So
they
when you
rent
say
it or-
family room, you don't mean a family room in the house. You mean the room above the garage. If there could either be a room that's not rented above the garage, or you could have a room that is rented above the garage. Right?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, because I'm just not sure how the market will respond, if they'll want a family room or they want an ADU, and that's really what we're here to figure out. If is there a minimum number that we need to look at for ADUs? We don't anticipate all of them to be ADUs, but maybe there's a half or a third of those units are ADU units. But that's really, the market units are really the economic engine that really drives the project. It allows us to build the affordable units at a competitive rate. It's either a break even or a loss on the affordable. So really the duplexes along the river, as well as the single family on the interior of the loop, are really the economic engine that allows us to do the affordable and the multifamily configuration.
So if each of these, or if only half of them had ADU, then we'd have 284 units plus 22 approximately units. Okay.
In that realm.
How does that compare to the Wellington? So that's 300 units, say, for discussion's sake. How many units are in the Wellington neighborhood?
How many ADUs?
No,
Units.
units.
Just units in general. How many?
Oh, I think it's 320, right around there.
So this is similar to another Wellington neighborhood.
Does that include Lincoln Park?
Yes.
Yeah, wow.
I would, go ahead, Aaron.
For similar reference, like Pinewood 1, Pinewood 2, how many units I'm trying to see what apartment buildings look like. How many units are in Pinewood 2?
In Pinewood 2, 45 units.
Okay.
And I think in Pinewood 1, there's 74.
Okay.
We're hoping to work with Tim and Quorum on these multifamily units here to see if they can give us some guidance. It's really, not in our bailiwick. We don't build a lot of affordable homes, and as well as multifamily homes, either market or deed restricted. So we need a partner like Quorum or possibly even Gorman to help us through this and navigate the process.
And when you say a unit, how are you using the measurement of a unit? Is it a 1-bedroom? Is it a 2-bedroom? Or are the bedrooms considered units?
Right. I think, I believe right now we have 80 1-bedroom units, 46 2-bedroom units, and 4 studio apartments.
I'm sorry, how many studio?
4, I believe.
Tom, getting away from the numbers for a second. On page 6 of 6, I'm looking at your streetscape concepts on your images.
Yep.
And it looks like some of them, are they retail? Are they storefront?
Well, what we hope to do there is that, really what we took, this master plan was approved in 2010, and with the benefit of 10 years of development all around us out there, we were, as well as additional housing studies and understanding community benefits and what's happened over the last 10 years in Breckenridge, we saw an ability to take the old master plan, take the good of it, the interior circulation of the open spaces, the riverfront lots, but then rethink the rest of the master plan. We have a lot of single family units in the previous master plan that were for sale units. And now we're switching a lot of that to a multifamily configuration because that's where the housing studies tell us the need is right now. Specific to your point about the commercial, we don't want this to be a destination commercial by any means. In fact, we have about 20,000, actually there's 20,000 square feet in the Stan Miller master plan currently available. And what we're proposing is that we'd half that number to approximately 10,000 square feet on somewhat of a mini plaza that is labeled in the plan as a parkway. I'm not sure if that's the right terminology for that small downtown area, but essentially what we're hoping to do is create a small commercial area that allows some vibrancy, that allows the affordable and the market to better integrate into one another rather than buffering to the affordable and turning our back on the affordable. We want to embrace a lot of that affordable with a, kind of a mini streetscape there. But, really what we've, what we've been talking about with Planning Commission and, I think it's been discussed at the council level. 25 years ago when we started planning the Highlands, we always talked about where we would go to get that proverbial jug of milk for those residents that live in the northern part of town. And I saw this as an opportunity that we could create a commercial area out here that's a little bit more of a service commercial. Possibly there's a coffee shop that opens before and after the Breck Central Market. Maybe there's a dry cleaner if anybody uses that anymore or knows what that is. Maybe there's a childcare facility. Maybe there's a laundromat. These are essentially what this commercial is being proposed as, is to take a little pressure off the downtown. We're asking for additional density. This isn't new density. This is density that we're buying from the bank. So, theoretically, this has been stripped off the mining parcels as well as open space parcels. And, the whole premise behind the TDR bank was to put the density where it belongs, take it out of the backcountry and put it downtown or on areas that have already been disturbed, which clearly Braddock and Stan Miller have been. So the commercial aspect of this is really a limited commercial aspect. We're trying to build on what the Breck Central Market and the BBC have started, but just provide a little bit more vitality to the subdivision, as well as try to take some pressure off of town by not having cars drive 3 miles into town for that jug of milk.
Thank you. Hey, Laurie, I don't know if you can answer this. Do we have a sense of how many, we're talking about units, we're talking about buildings or whatever, how many pillows there are, how many, pillows there are in this development compared to, let's say, the Wellington development?
The market rate component?
How many, that's it, all in. How many people can sleep in this Braddock Flats development compared to how many people sleep in the Wellington?
I think that's a tough comparison, Jeffrey. The way I think you have to look at this is there's 86 units that look like the Wellington, and Wellington's
320.
So you're less than a third of the Wellington for those units, but you have 198 affordable that look like Pinewood, which is 74 units. So you get 3 of those, you get three Pinewood ones, and you get a third of the Wellington. That's what this looks like. So
Where does the third of a Wellington come from, Eric?
Well, there's only 86 standalone market rate units. Everything standalone is market rate. The 198 are all in the apartment buildings.
Right.
So
I'm trying to figure out how many people, if it's a totally packed, how many people will be driving in or busing in to ski.
Well, it's hard to say because the 190, he doesn't know yet what the mix will be of those 198 units as far as bedroom count.
Oh, it's okay.
Well, we have a general idea, and I think that really differentiates the previous master plan that was done 10 years ago from from what we're looking at in this plan today, is that we were able to take really a micro planning effort at looking at the parcel and recognize that it could carry a little bit more density. So in doing that, we know that we can provide for 132 apartments. The mix on those apartments right now is 80, and let me just check on this, but it's 80 81 bedroom apartments, 48 two-bedroom apartments, and 4 studio apartments.
So a unit is not an apartment. When we're looking at units.
That is.
Okay, but there's only 132 apartments, but in our table, it says 198 deed restricted.
I'm sorry, I think I confused everybody there. It's 198. I'm getting confused between the SFEs and the units
Yeah.
here. So
If we just talk units, just, basic, a unit, it could be a 1-bedroom unit or 2-bedroom unit or 3-bedroom unit. It's a unit. We have 198 deed restricted units.
Okay, but my math equating to Tom's math, he's listing 132 units.
Yeah, I think he might be looking at the SFEs, but the 198 units, like Eric said, are all in apartments.
Yeah, no, I get that. I'm curious about the mix for the 198 units.
So there are no deed restricted homes.
What?
There are no deed restricted homes besides the short-term rental thing.
Right,
No.
but I get that. It's just the 132 apartments do not add up to the 198 units.
Unless you add in 44 ADUs, those are potentially deed restricted in single family territory, but for all intents and purposes, ADUs are apartments. They're just not in the multi.
Oh, yeah.
Right, but that doesn't count. That's not counted toward the 198 deed restricted.
It's not,
units.
correct. No, correct.
All right.
Tom, do you have a breakdown of the 198 apartments by bedroom size?
Yes, the studios are 500 square feet. The 1-bedrooms are 630 square feet, and the 2-bedrooms are 846 square feet.
It looks like the bulk of your rentals are 1-bedroom.
They are. It's almost double, or it's half of what it's double what the 2-bedrooms are.
Right.
And again, we're trying to capture the young single professional or the older single professional, however, the right retiree. I shouldn't discriminate like that, but that's really the goal of this plan.
And what was the square footage for the 1-bedroom again? I'm sorry.
It's approximately 630 square feet. And then the studios are 500 and the 2-bedrooms are about 850.
Thank you.
What do you envision on the not the apartments and not the homes along the creek, the river? What do you foresee your customer being on the teal units? What do you guess, at least? I know you can't, go drop dead claim it, but what are your assumptions?
What I'm hoping it's we've seen a lot of those Wellington neighborhood units that have sold, and the market rate units that have sold for a healthy sum out there, and we're probably looking at something in that range, the 2,500 or possibly even smaller. I'd say 2,200 to 3,000 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's a little bit larger than a Wellington neighborhood lot. I believe those average about a little over 1/10 of an acre, and these are almost a 1/4 acre apiece.
So you think maybe a mix of professionals, family professionals, second homeowners from Denver that want a piece of the pie up here, and I guess those are the only choices, because it's not short-term rental allowed, correct?
Except
Correct.
for along the river.
Except along the river, exactly, that's it, yeah.
I mean, you could theoretically have 86 second homeowners.
Yeah.
There's no restriction on second homeowners. They can't, there's currently no restriction on second homeowners. There's only a restriction on short-term rental, on the ones on the interior.
Right.
But it's basically 42 short-term rentals, right? Is what we're looking at here.
Well, you know, these are, I'm not sure if all of them will short-term rent. It's been our experience that, you know, you get above 1.5 million for a half a duplex, which most likely these duplexes will trade in. Looking, you know, these duplexes are nothing new. They're similar to the Shores that is just to the north of us, the duplexes along the river. Again, you know, we need an economic engine to make this whole thing work, and that's part of that engine. So, you know, the Shores, there's certainly some short-term rentals in there, and some of the other projects that we've done more recently, River's Edge and Cucumber Creek, those have been almost exclusively duplexes. And I would say, you know, it might be 20% of the people rent those things as short-term rentals. A lot of people, once they start hitting a certain level, don't want people in their home, and you know, can afford not to have people rent the home. But there's also a lot of blue jean millionaires that enjoy the income as well.
Any other questions for Tom or Lori? So I guess what we're being asked tonight is if this is in general something that we would be okay with, if there are other things you would see as a need in order to go forward with this, or if you don't like it at all.
Well, I have a major concern with childcare. I know you mentioned that sort of briefly, but this is going to be, if, you know, especially the apartments have all locals in them, then I think I guess there are a lot of one bedrooms, so maybe it'll be a little different than I originally imagined it. But, you know, this is like adding an entire another community, I feel like, within Breckenridge, or right on the side of Breckenridge. And we already have 250 kids on the wait list for childcare facilities. So my concern is that if these are meant for families who work and live here, then we have some real known infrastructure shortages. And childcare is, I think, one of the most difficult to deal with right now. So I would really like to see, you know, if there is something you could come up with that, even if it did reduce the number of deed restricted properties, I would still like to see a childcare facility either here in this area, or if there's, I mean, I think this is a great area because, you know, all the parents coming in and out of Breckenridge are going to be passing this. And then this neighborhood, it's near Blue 52. I mean, I think there's a lot of good reasons to have a childcare facility right out near this piece of property. But that is a concern I don't think we would be responsible to ignore.
I agree with that.
And I certainly think there's room in the plan for that. As I mentioned, we currently have about 20,000 square feet of density, commercial density, and you know, I'm sure we can accommodate some childcare facilities out there. My biggest concern is not having vitality on that small commercial strip out there. You know, we want this to be embraced by the community, by the residents that live north of downtown that don't need to come into downtown. But at the same time, I want to make sure that it's well attended, that people are out there, they're buying things, they're bringing their kids and dropping them off for childcare out there, and that would be under commercial density as well.
Kelly, how do you feel about the overall philosophy of adding this much more density since you started?
I mean, I'm pretty concerned. I don't know if there have been any traffic studies for adding 285, or I guess if all the other ADUs 320 or something new units in that area. I'm not sure what that translates to people, but it seems like an awful lot of people coming out of one or two locations onto Highway 9. I think childcare, the traffic study, in Wellington neighborhood, parking has been a real issue, and I don't see any real parking areas for the homes. I'm not sure how long these driveways are. They look super long, but I think it's an elegant picture. I don't know where guests would park for those. I also think that, Blue 52 has that wonderful park. Obviously, we're not going to be going to that kind of an extent, but the open space, if this does attract a lot of families, I think a park would be reasonable to have in this area. The rec path, I'm not sure what the alignment would be for that, but in my experience, a fast moving rec path that allows, motorized bikes to go on, e-bikes, whatever, going through an area where there are children and people walking their dogs, I don't think necessarily mix very well. So I mean, the deed restricted housing is something I can't ignore. It would be wonderful to have more of our community be able to live and be here. But I think there are some infrastructure questions that I would really like to see a lot more information on before we sort of supported or, didn't support a project this size.
Thanks, Kelly. Who'd like to go next?
I agree with all Kelly's comments. And I would add, I'm really conflicted. This is a lot of additional density to this end of town. I think it's very important, it's the amount of deed restricted workforce housing is very intriguing, right? I think the number is 1,200 units we need for rental, and mostly rental units. And so the fact, Tom, that you've hit rental units in here is phenomenal. I mean, that's very appealing to me. But I think it needs to be an average of 80% AMI or less. 100, averaging, and obviously the original master plan was even higher, but the incomes have gone up, and it just, the need is 80%. So if that's going to be the benefit that kicks us over the edge to allow this level of density, it has to be 80% for me. Boy, if it were downsized 20% or so, that would sure help me. This is just, it's really dense. It's a lot of units in the valley. I agree with Kelly on the daycare. I think that's essential. I would also think a part of this, for me, and I don't know if this is Tom's responsibility or ours to commit to, but if we're going to do this much density out here, I think we need to commit to getting that 20-acre parcel at the south end of McCain into open space. And I don't know if we could persuade the county to take the 3.2 million from the TDRs that he would purchase and buy the 20-acre parcel from town and then put it into open. But for me, that's critical. I'm super concerned with sprawl. All the way from the courthouse to Farmer's Corner. That really worries me. So for me, as a part of this, for me to get my head around it, I think and again, I'm not sure this is Tom's deal, but I think for us, I would sure like to see us entertain a commitment to getting that 20 acres into open space. So it can be well managed with our, with both sides. Yeah, the rec path, figuring out an alignment for the rec path that works for our planning folks. I know they're trying to get it away from the roundabout on Highway 9 to, it's far safer if we can get it out of that mess. So to find an alignment that works for everyone for the rec path also would be a critical item for me.
Thanks, Dick. Dennis?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with both Kelly and Dick, especially Dick on the 80%. And Tom, I'd like to see some more proposed amenities in there for a community of this size. I know that when the Wellington neighborhood started out, there were going to be a post office, there was going to be a coffee shop. I don't know that 20% number is right or wrong, but I'd like to see more amenities for this community.
Thanks, Dennis. Jeffrey?
I don't see another Wellington to the north of town by the BBC. And plus, I think it's not even the Wellington mix, which I think is a little bit more local friendly. You look at the Wellington, they have Wellington Road to get to town. You look at the stuff we've done out in Airport Road, they have Airport Road to get to town. This development is going to go down Highway 9, which we just know is a cluster. One, I'm not, the rec path would be nice to get it off the roundabout. I ride it all the time. It's doable. Childcare would be sweet, but I think nature abhors a vacuum. When we get more, we're going to get a town from Breckenridge all the way to Frisco. If hopefully I won't be alive, but and I don't want this to be the first step of that. If down the road we come up with something different, I could be seduced on this, but on first blush, I just think this is too much to the north of the community.
Yeah, this is go ahead, Aaron.
Can I talk?
Yeah, sure.
Is that okay? So my impression, I think it's too dense right now, and I know that we keep on saying Wellington, but I agree. Wellington, the beauty of Wellington is that it has such a mix of locals and market rate homes, whether that is locals or whether it's not locals, and it really creates community. And as we look at some equity issues and things like that, when I look at this diagram of the different colored houses and things like that, it's hard not to just think segregation. And I don't like it. I don't like the haves and have-nots so disparate. And I know that's where our minds go of, oh, the big houses on the river and things like that. It doesn't sit well with me right now. And I really think we need to focus on creating community. It's more important now than ever. And I'd like to see this look more like community. And I do think it's too dense. I do think the congestion will be really rough, especially if we don't have a grocery store out there. I get like a little market or whatever, but those little markets tend to be really expensive. And if we're gonna put 80% AMI, which I think is a great idea, Dick, it needs to have affordable food there too. So we need to think about that from different angles as well. And we'd have to add, a feeder route. We have to be prepared to make sure that we have reliable transportation. And right now we have the Summit Stage, which I'm not saying isn't reliable, but it's not, we can't bet on it, right? Because we're not funding it. So that's going to be really tough to look at. And I completely agree with what Kelly is saying about childcare, which is a really big need. Those are all my thoughts. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Yeah, I agree with just about everything everybody said, which means this is hard and honestly, Tom, nothing to do with, I think even the layout that you've proposed, but I don't know that the infrastructure in the town right now can even handle, Jeffrey and I have always talked about this thing where we build housing and people have kids, so we need childcare, which means we need to add on to our school system a couple years after that, which means we have to hire more people, which means people move to town, so we have more jobs, so we have more kids, so we need more housing. We've developed this nonstop machine right now, and it seems like the lure is always, let's put affordable housing in, let's get housing in, and that will be the panacea for all of our woes. And there's a lot here to unpack in one brief work session like this. I feel like the homes in red, the majority of those will be short-term rented. They're duplexes. They're not, Highlands homes. Even if they're $1.5 million a side, they're still duplexes. And I feel like that will be a center for, VRBO, Airbnb. Potentially the single-family homes in the middle would be owned by people that live in the community, but they could also just be Denver weekender homes without any restrictions. The apartments are great, but it seems so weird to have that many people in apartments this close to everything else. And so the Planning Commission has taken a bunch of trips to developments similar to this down in the Denver area. Every time there's one of these commercial zones, they all seem very sad to me. They're little, there's not a whole lot going on. There's an expensive coffee shop bakery. There's something else going out of business. I think these kind of things are always a little bit dangerous unless you get the right mix. I think that childcare is definitely would be an outstanding option for this. These are a bunch of people that aren't going to be able to get into City Market because you can't get into City Market right now. And that's, in the end, I boil all this stuff down to, do we have the infrastructure in our community for these people to be able to go to the market? We're going to have to run a bus out here. So that's going to be on the town. So we're going to owe for this. We got at least a couple $1 million in SFEs that we're going to donate to the project. We're going to have to put a bus out here for that many deed restricted apartment units. There's no way around that. That will become the new busy yellow route. And it can't be Summit Stage that runs it. It needs to be a town bus out to this thing that we are potentially creating right now. So we need to think about that piece also. So, I don't know. Just saying 20% smaller, I don't know if that does it. I don't know if this is even, I don't know, maybe it's the right size as it is, but I don't know that what we have to the south of this can adequately support what you want to build. So, make any sense, Lori? Make sense from everybody's comments?
Do you have time for a few questions at least?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So currently we have 157 SFEs on the property. What we're asking for is approximately about a 35% increase to that density to be approximately 212 SFEs. A lot of the questions that I'm hearing, or at least comments on the plan, I'm not sure if they go away with the density that's already allocated there. And that, I guess what I'm hearing is that is it 20% smaller of the 212? We have, so we can grow 10% bigger from the existing plan right now, or I should probably say 15% bigger if we're asking for 35 and you're saying it's 20% too dense at 35% more. Is there ability to increase the density by 15%? And does that really make a difference in the overall scheme of bus service as well as pressure on Highway 9 and traffic studies, which we always knew that we would have to do additional traffic studies, so I don't see a problem with that. I guess I'm trying to figure out where we should go with this project. Childcare, I understand all that, and certainly I have 2 boys, and we grew up through the childcare facilities in this town, and know it's not an easy proposition. So I guess I'm just struggling a little bit with where to go. It really boils down to a formula of how much affordable can we give, how much market rate can we also afford to build out here. And again, we can go back to the underlying densities of the master plan of 157. We can try to make something work. We were looking for possibly a different angle that could satisfy some town needs with affordable housing by doubling the amount of affordable units from 100 to 198. But, we have a limited window on this one with Miller and that purchase agreement. So I appreciate your comments, and just looking for any ideas on problems I can solve. I'm not sure if I can solve the bus issue or the density issue other than going back to the approved density of 157. I think the only question I really have out there is, are you okay with more of a dense multifamily configuration that's more in the rental pool versus the single family units that were approved originally on the parcel?
Tom, I think one of the things that's difficult to get our heads around is exactly what are the apartments in mixed use for the affordable going to look like? Is it going to be 80% or is it going to be 120? Because that's a big difference for our need base. Is it going to be Gorman or is it going to be Pinewood? Is it going to be Eric at Pinewood? So I think some of those questions will inform how big this thing can be, sort of for our mentality. If, for instance, the apartments are in at 80%, I think there's a greater desire by the town to run bus service out to the property. If it's 120 to 150, I don't know that that's a bunch of people driving their car into town then, which creates a different impact for us. So I think putting a finer point on some of your ideas might help before, it's just an outright no. I'd also like to see the original plan, to be honest with you. I cannot remember. I know we had to drag Kermit kicking and screaming to the affordable part of this for the original annexation. And I just cannot remember. I can't remember what it even looked like.
Is it, as I recall on Kermit's, I could be crazy. I thought it was an 80-20 on Kermit's property. 80 deed restricted, 20 free market. Is that true, Laurie?
Yeah, Kermit definitely had the bulk of the deed restricted units that he was responsible for. I think on his property, trying to see, it is in the memo in that chart. If you look at units, I think Kermit was responsible for, I think you're right. I think he had about 30% market rate and 70% deed restricted, maybe just slightly better than that, but the bulk of the deed restricted units were on Kermit's.
We struck a hard bargain on that, but didn't he get something in return, not on that particular property, but in some of his other property? Why would he agree for that annexation? Why would he agree to such he
wanted the annexation, and our standards at that time were 80% deed restricted, 20% market. And if you look at, I just pulled it up on the Miller component, he's currently obligated to do 71% deed restricted and 29% market. So even that wasn't meeting our then 80-20 split.
Mm-hmm.
But he definitely, has reached out to us a couple times and said that is just going to be really challenging for him.
Right. But and so he didn't sell any other property, develop any other property? The Welk development wasn't on his property?
No.
Wasn't part of this.
Okay.
Hey, Tom, when you say there's a limited window, can you explain that a little bit more? I didn't understand that.
Well, you know, we have a contract with Kermit and his family, and you know, we have about a 6-month window here to execute that contract and try to figure out if we can make something work between the two properties. We have a development plan and a subdivision plan for approximately, well, it is 46 units. It's 24 market rate duplexes and single families, and then 22 affordable homes on our 15 acres of Braddock. So what we're trying to do is really joint plan the project and see if we can put the affordable where it belongs and put the market where it belongs and put the amenities where they belong and put the open space where it belongs. So irregardless of where the property lines are. So that was really our main effort here in the planning of these two properties.
That makes sense. Any other final comments or questions for Tom? Any
Well,
more
I guess
guidance we can give him?
maybe one more thing to think about. I think what Aaron said about the sense of community is really, really important. And my probably biggest concern is that all of the homes out here would end up being second homes or short-term rentals. So I know that it has to pencil, but if there's a way to make this more of a community that really would be serving, you know, local professionals, I think that would be a lot more, that would serve a greater community need, and I would be more excited about it.
And I think the response to that would be, that's why we're trying to create some of those ADU units inside to help local professionals afford a slightly bigger home with more space and a larger lot around it. And you know, these were our attempts to try to you know, out of the gates, try to give away some things that are substantive, you know, or substantial. We want to talk about we know the short-term rental restrictions are important to you as a group. We know affordable housing is important to you as a group, and you know, doubling the amount of affordable housing, as well as potentially having up to, you know, anywhere between 0 and 44 additional ADUs, and in addition to that 198, I think that was our first foray into trying to make something happen for the single family young professional couple.
Yeah, if the ones with the ADUs, if the single family homes with the ADUs are really geared towards locals, then if they were deed restricted that way, so that the ones with the additional, you know, with the additional density were actually going to local families and it wasn't just a second homeowner, then maybe that would be a better way to do it.
Okay. Well, I think this gives us the direction we need, and thanks for carving out some time for us tonight, and I appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Tom. Thanks for being present too. I appreciate that. All right, at 6:30, do you guys want to push on with some committee reports and stuff so we can do the night meeting a little quicker?
Eric, I have one item under report of town manager, if I could do that.
That'd be great.
I'd like to give the council a heads up. You know, I tried about, I don't know what it's been, maybe a month ago, to open up and unlock the front doors of town hall. But I've been nervously watching this, and I feel that I need to go back to locking them. We have, you know, we're required to control the people and their activity and what they're doing in a building, and we have no way of controlling people that come in. All we can do is control that they can't get into a locked office area, but they can roam the hallways. We can have, you know, 20 people could walk into the front lobby and be in violation, and you know, there's nobody there to stop that. We don't man the front of the building. So you I'm watching and talking to the other managers and watching the county courthouse, and I think that we can be just as effective with a very good phone-in appointment system and meet our customer needs. And so, I think that because of our inability to control that, and especially when there's court going on 2 days a week, it's 2 times a month, it's critical for us to control how many people come in during a court setting. And we have to physically, we personally usher those people through to the court setting during that. And so having that controlled access during that is even more critical. And so unless you have any real concerns with this, we're going to go back to shutting those doors starting Monday. And the only reason I'm waiting is because I want to have some really good, more user-friendly signage that's in English and in Spanish, very visible and large, posted at the front entrance there for exactly the phone number to call depending on which department and what type of business you're doing. So.
Does that sound okay to everybody?
Yeah. Rick, we don't have any complaints now, do we?
We never got complaints when it was locked before, Dennis. I think ComDev's done an excellent job of working. I think some of the contractors probably like that they can just walk right in, but then once they walk in, they can't get into ComDev. They have to stand outside ComDev and ring a doorbell and get ushered in. So, it's really, it's not a huge change. We're just controlling that. We're controlling it more at that entrance point than once they're in the building. So.
I'm good with it.
All right. I just wanted y'all to have a heads up. That's all I got.
All right. Did I tell you guys about my discussion, Rick and my discussion with Rob Katz?
No.
So Rick and myself, as well as Elizabeth, Scott Vargo from the county, Bill Rock, who's the Colorado Mountain CEO, I guess, for Vail Resorts, John Bueller, the CEO of Keystone, and Rob Katz had a Zoom call. It was a really good call. It was completely above board. We talked about the ski area, talked about ski area opening, talked about I think in the end, to boil it down, there are 2 major concerns for Vail Resorts. Number one, that the governor is going to put some capacity limit that's very arbitrary on all the resorts without taking into account the difference between all the resorts. It's almost like the capacity issue with restaurants, where a 50-person maximum is fine if you have an 100-person restaurant, but if you have a 500-person restaurant, it's not necessarily the same thing. So they're lobbying to do something different. They feel that they are the pros. They should be able to figure out the capacity for Breckenridge in particular. That's all we really care about in the end. The interesting takeaway for me was that they don't want to close again. So he doesn't want to open up and then be forced to close because they did the wrong thing. Mainly because they won't have any employees if they do that. If they close for 2 weeks, their employees will all leave and go elsewhere. So I feel that at least from what he was saying, they'll take a very measured approach to opening for the ski area, with the goal being that they will never have to close. They'll do the right thing. They'll do grab and go in the restaurant. Restaurants won't be open at night. They'll figure out a way to do a reservation system. He said there won't be any of, those big days that we have over Christmas. I do not think they're going to exist this year, which is fine, because if the ski area is at 50% capacity and we're at 50% in town, that makes some sense. The county was more interested in the public health aspects of it. Rick and I were more interested in what are we going to do this winter as far as our guests, and excuse me. A lot of things we talked to them about were trying to get more outdoor activities so that our guests don't go away disappointed if they have limited ski days. which who knows, that might not even exist. Maybe skiing will be fine. I did ask him about uphill access and having an area where we could have uphill access all day long. They said they were internally talking about that already. There are obviously some issues with that as well, and I didn't push it any farther than saying we're worried about avalanche danger this season. We're worried about people that live in the community or come up from the Front Range who have never been in the backcountry like Jeffrey does or have that kind of experience and then get in trouble. Is there a way to offer a safer option on the hill? So it was the best meeting I have had with the management in my tenure as mayor for the town of Breck. So it was good.
Eric, speaking of that, do you think they're aware, or I'm sure they are being marketing folks, but if they did allow some sort of uphill access, say at P-Gate or something, I mean, that would drive some business to their restaurants, to their shops, and, you know, that would kind of get some bodies up there that might ordinarily not make that trip up the gondola, or if it's peak 9 or 10 to their base area, and that could be a money-making revenue generator. Do you think they are aware of that? Are they even
I think they're well aware of it. I think they're really balancing the pros and cons of what this season's going to look like. You know, I even told them I'm pretty sure that a lot of locals would, or Front Rangers would buy a uphill pass for the season. You know, I mentioned maybe part of it could be a donation to CAIC. We'll see. I think they're still waiting for Polis to tell them how he's feeling. He wanted to wait till after school started and then 6 weeks. So I feel like we're going to be October before we really have an idea of where the ski season is shaping up to be. Katz did say on a call that somebody was telling me about earlier that the people that are very, that are hot in their stocks right now are going to be disappointed. And I'm paraphrasing what this person told me. So take this with a grain of salt, but people have been really buying up their stocks thinking the winter's going to be normal. And I think Rob's point was this winter will be far from normal. Do not think this will be 100% winter. So I think he has the right attitude for doing the right thing. I was honestly, I was relieved that he wasn't like, we're open and we don't care, just do it. You know, it was, they're very measured in their approach. And that was really good to see. So.
Well, from what you're telling us, I believe that we need to stick with our plan. We need to do what's right for the town.
Yeah. And they were very complimentary of everything we've done also. He really mentioned a couple times how he's really, you know, proud of the way Breckenridge handled the crisis as opposed to some of the other communities where he feels that when the winter comes, he's going to have to battle them over mask mandates and does not like the way that they've handled the crisis. So, they're full mask in all their resorts, no questions asked, and they want the same support from their communities, which I guess some of them aren't doing that, and it sounds like it's going to be a battle later. So that is what I have. I was on the mayor's mingle today. Most of it was talking about the police, the new police laws, and most of it was the Front Range communities talking about how policing is changing. Honestly, I had zero to offer. They talked about marijuana a little bit. I mentioned that, you know, that we know how to handle.
You mentioned Jeffrey.
I'm a
Hey, Eric, I forgot to mention, we've scheduled that photo with the town council wearing their mask for September the 8th at 1 p.m. at the Riverwalk Center lawn.
Okay.
Is that a group photo or solo?
I don't know. I think it's a group with you spread out.
Okay, I might not be here. Can I come and do a solo?
Talk to Peyton.
Wear your mask.
Rick, how long do you think that should take?
Less than 30 minutes, I would imagine.
Sweet.
Okay. Open space. Aaron?
Shannon's trying to talk, but nobody can hear her.
Sorry, Shannon.
Sorry, my technical setup tonight's not quite working. So we probably wouldn't be able to schedule another day, Jeffrey, but if you needed to, we could certainly try. And this is that fellow that's kind of volunteered, wants to do it because he loves what you guys have done here.
I can provide several pictures.
You just draw the mask on them.
Yeah.
You're the face of the council, buddy.
And,
All right. Aaron, open space.
We didn't have an open space meeting because we had that special meeting a couple weeks ago. But thank you for talking to Rob Katz. I know that BOSAC will be happy about that too, that you brought it up. Thank you.
Tourism, Dennis.
We have a meeting Thursday.
Excellent.
That's an update.
Heritage, anything? Dennis?
Next meeting is coming up. No update.
All right, we got no water. Creative arts, who did we sucker with that one, Rick? Carlton, that's right.
And Kelly.
mm-hmm.
Tag team.
Kelly and
I'll have to go.
I was able to attend a meeting, and it was my first, so it was a learning session for me. Rick was there as well, so Rick, you can jump in anytime. Very interesting. It's a large board, and you know, they're trying to get their head around what we're going to offer for a budget. And I thought Rick was very clear and very appropriate in really in responding to them by asking that we would like the bare bones number for staying open, which would include, you know, covering their essential staff and covering the taking care of our buildings, our assets, and the, you know, essential maintenance and keeping the lights on in those buildings. And then from there, we would like to see a menu of programs and events that they would like to do with approximate price tags on each. And then we could work with that to decide what we were going to give them. So I thought that was a great answer. And yeah, we're working through it. The co-chairs are planning to step down. So I think they're trying to find a new chair for the organization. Yeah, Rick, what would you want to fill in the holes there?
No, I mean, that was it. Wasn't a lot.
I want to say one thing about BCA, since you're just down to business. This weekend, I got to see Trio both in the trees and in the river at the Riverwalk Center. And it was really awesome. I hadn't seen it since that very first year when you just like happened upon it in the trees, but they're really good. And I was kind of, I guess, just impressed that we could put on something so cool and not, you know, have to publicize it and make a huge deal out of it, that we could just have something that was a huge asset for people who were already there. Was very cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
I saw him in the river. I totally agree. That was cool.
You know, we are I'll just add one quick thing. We're very happy with, I think, you know, Matt is really trying to integrate himself into the community, work well with others, see what role, trying to really understand in these strange times, what role they can play to help, whether it's with childcare or whatever else they're doing in facilities. And so I really appreciate, you know, that work that he's doing and trying to be a part of this. And he's been very active, as many of you know, in our Wednesday group meetings, et cetera. So
Also very interested in working hard on our social equity efforts as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm glad he's the guy right now.
Yep.
Dick, you have any events news?
Oh boy, Shannon wrote a great memo outlining our last meeting. I had nothing that I remember really standing out. Shannon, am I missing anything?
No, I guess I would like to thank council and the Breck Film thanks council for quick response last week to get them permission to get moving on their decals. So thank you very much for doing that.
Childcare, Kelly.
I mean, I don't think, we're just pleased that we're still chugging along and the facilities are opening and running well and taking all sorts of precautions. Corey Burr has been amazing at getting all those tuition assistance applications through the, she has to go back and forth with like 70 different families and all their taxes, and everybody's taxes this year were delayed. And so she had to work really hard to make sure everybody got through and that the childcare facilities could get pay on time for September and then bill the parents. And she makes all that happen and makes it look easy, but I know it is not. So big kudos to her. And the only other thing for childcare is that we're at the childcare community level, we're looking at putting out a message that I would like to know if there's greater interest from the town, or if there's another, if there are other places that this could fit in. But we've noticed that maybe some of our parents and families could use a message to be kind, a little reminder of be kind, we're all in this together. I know people are so frustrated and just trying to make it work financially and going to work every day, and they've got kids in childcare, kids at school, and like we've said several times on this call, it's just probably going to be even more difficult. And so we're looking at putting together a message that go out to all of our parents that says, make sure you're modeling the behavior you want your kids to have, and please be good to those childcare providers who are holding your kid, while they don't have a mask on and are crying about bumped knees, and they're doing, the most important work in our community right now, and that we just need to be polite and kind and courteous to them. So, and I think that be kind message, if there are more ways, I think we need to start hitting that as hard as the building hope message, honestly, because you just don't know what's going on behind the scenes with people and why they're reacting a certain way to something. And so I don't know, that's my spiel for childcare.
Oh, that's a good spiel.
Yeah.
Really unfortunate that that's happening right now.
Yeah, it is. And, it's not isolated. I mean, I've talked about it, and restaurateurs have said, yes, we have that same thing. And it's the service industry. They're just all those people who are doing such hard work and such important work. And they're getting the brunt of people's frustrations and angers. And I don't know if there are ways to, I want to do like a little award for when our servers get like bad mouth on Yelp, oh, I got turned away because they said I had to pull my mask up over my face. I thought we should give that server an award, give them a little something from the town of Breck, a gift card to something. I don't know, but this is going to be a long winter. If there are ways that we can sort of reward the hard work that the service industry is doing, I would love to hear about it.
It's a great idea.
I agree.
I would like to maybe come up with a little slogan, maybe put Haley on it, some sort of, how they sort of buy local, love this place like a local, something in the same vein where it just, all in it together. That's kind of passe, but just something, if we have some sort of catchy little phrase, like, I don't know, something positive, don't be a dick, something, but there you go. Have Haley phrase it in a little bit more of a PG manner. Just, and I'd love to just try to noodle something off on like that. I'd like to, that'd be kind of nice.
Oh, Haley says.
Jeffrey hates jerks.
Yeah, so, Haley could probably come up with something in 10 minutes.
Did you see Haley says, show your love, don't show your face?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I like it.
I mean, remember during the, no love, no glove, it's just something that kind of connotes what we're all feeling, but not like that, but something like that.
Yeah, I'm afraid it's going to be a rough winter.
Yeah. So
easy to get lulled into when we see the numbers we had from the summer, and it's been busy this summer, and people have generally been complying. It's easy to get lulled into this isn't so bad.
Yeah.
That's the way it feels. Yeah.
Well, and Nikki came up with those great animal featured, trail signage. They're really nice and cute. And just like what Jeffrey's saying, great catchphrases. It would be nice to see something like that, but about being kind and accepting and that sort of thing around town. I think that would be good.
I think it's a great idea. Before we go to the other meeting, is there anything from workforce housing additional? Dick, are you good with that?
I'm good with it. I appreciate everybody's support on the rec center project, and I think it's going to be a good one.
And then anything from social equity?
We met, or go ahead, Aaron, you want to go?
No, you go. No, it's good.
We had a meeting with their team, and to try to keep moving forward. We have set up separate meetings. One, Aaron and I are meeting with their team on the committee and next steps on the committee, etc. And then the others, we're working. Remind me, Aaron, Shannon, you guys are working on the data set that we're gonna seek. Is that?
Yep. So me and a couple folks from HR will be meeting with them to talk about our organization and data points specific to the town and how we hire and retain talent. And we're having that meeting next week.
Cool.
And then the whole group is going to meet once every 3 weeks. So I think our group is meeting every other week or something like that. And then the whole group meets every 3 weeks.
Excellent.
And we'll have our workshop coming up in September.
September 9th, right after the council meeting.
Excellent. Do we need to switch formats, or are we just going right into the night meeting in 3 minutes?
Yes, you are. That's it.
Yes.
We're good.
Wait, can you, there's a council meeting
Tonight, yes.
Go back a step.
What's going on?
Did you just say there's a council meeting September 9th?
No, workshop
on the 8th.
Equity.
Okay.
We do have a council meeting on the 8th, right? September 8th.
I got that.
Yeah.
Does anybody feel like we need a meeting on the 1st? A COVID meeting next Tuesday? Are we good for a week? You want to take a week off?
I'll be into that.
So what we would like to do, right now we have a fairly light agenda on the 8th, so we would like to bring you some recommendations for some outdoor recreation things we'd like to kind of, maybe get your okay on. Again, this is, let's invest a little dollars to try to make sure we have some of these grooming and different activities going on. We'd like to do that sooner than waiting for the full budget discussion, because many of these things, they got to kind of get in the works, make purchases and start looking at stuff. So we'll have some brief numbers for you on the 8th, and so hopefully we can go through some of that with you then.
Excellent. All right, let's call to order the Tuesday, August 25th, 2020 regular scheduled meeting. It is 7 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carlton.
Here.
Mr. Bergeron.
Yes, here.
Ms. Owens.
Here.
Mr. Kuhn.
Here.
Ms. Giello.
Here.
Mayor Mamula.
Yes. Before we continue, we will be having communications to council shortly. So if you are going to talk to us this evening, there is a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. When we get to that, I'd like to have the questions already. That'd be great. And otherwise, we're sitting here looking weird for a minute while you write. So if you could want to type your question in now, feel free, and then we'll get to it. And we begin with approval of the minutes for Town Council, both August 11 and August 19th of 2020. Does anybody have any corrections, changes, deletions, additions? Nope, seeing none. The council minutes stand as presented. Agenda, Rick.
And no changes?
All right. All right, so now we are at communications to council. Citizens' comments, non-agenda items only. And if you don't want to do it right now, you are always welcome to submit comments and questions to mayor@townofbreckenridge.com, or go ahead and use that Q&A, and we'll wait a couple of seconds here. I'm sure there's a name for Zoom dead time, or Jeffrey, you could come up with a name for Zoom dead time.
I'll wordsmith it with Haley when I come up with a slogan. She's dreading working with me.
Oh yeah, wait, everybody is, except me. I love it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, there are no questions. I'm going to close the citizens' comments, and we move on to continued business. The first piece this evening, our second readings of council bills. We have Council Bill number 28, Series 2020. It's an ordinance amending Chapter 13 of Title 4 of the Breckenridge Town Code concerning special events. Tim?
This ordinance, as the title indicates, would amend the town's special events ordinance with respect to virtual events and street art. There are no changes to the ordinance from first reading.
Thank you, Tim. Any questions for Tim? Is there anyone in the public that will wish to comment on this second reading this evening? If you would like to, the Q&A function will be open for 30 seconds beginning right now.
Continue this, second Council Bill 28.
It's still pouring rain in Warriors Mark.
Wow, it's sunny here in Vista Point.
What's that tell you?
Great news, we got rain.
All right, public hearing is closed. Is there a motion?
On second reading, I move we pass Council Bill number 28, Series 2020, the title which has been read into the record.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Giello,
Yes.
Mr. Carlton,
Yes.
Mr. Kuhn,
Yes.
Ms. Owens,
Yes.
Mr. Bergeron,
Yes.
Mayor Mamula.
Yes. We have the second reading of Council Bill number 29, Series 2020, an ordinance amending Chapter 1 of Title 9 of the Breckenridge Town Code, known as the Breckenridge Development Code, concerning exterior lighting. Tim.
This ordinance, if adopted, would extend the date for the compliance requirement for non-conforming light fixtures under the dark sky ordinance. Currently, that deadline is July 1, 2022. This ordinance would extend that for 3 years to July 1, 2025. It also includes a provision to allow a method for bringing light fixtures into compliance through a retrofit process. There are no changes to the ordinance from first reading.
Thank you, Tim. Any questions for Tim or the staff? No. Public comment is now welcome. There is 30 seconds beginning right now. Please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. All right, the public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion?
Move we pass Council Bill number 29 on second reading, Series 2020, the title which has been read into the record.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Giello,
Yes.
Ms. Owens,
Yes.
Mr. Carlton,
Yes.
Mr. Kuhn,
Yes.
Mr. Bergeron,
Yes.
Mayor Mamula.
Yes. We have the second reading of Council Bill number 30, Series 2020, an ordinance authorizing the granting of an easement to Public Service Company of Colorado Town Open Space Parcel.
This ordinance would approve the granting of an easement to Public Service Company over what we call the town open space parcel as described in the ordinance. Staff has worked with Public Service Company, feels comfortable with this ordinance. The easement that would be approved is a town form of easement, so we have a little bit more control over the use of the easement area than if we used Public Service's normal or standard easement. The only change to this ordinance from first reading is a proposal or a request, really, that the ordinance be made an emergency ordinance at the time of approval on second reading tonight. The reason that is important to a Public Service Company is an emergency ordinance becomes effective immediately upon adoption, whereas if it's approved as a non-emergency ordinance, it doesn't become effective for 35 days. Public Service Company would greatly appreciate the council's conversion of this ordinance to an emergency ordinance tonight so that Public Service can begin working on the easement immediately. So Jeffrey, the motion, if you're inclined to make one, would be to approve the ordinance as an emergency ordinance in the form that is in the agenda packet.
Tim, this is a correlative document, is it not?
No, that's later. This is just to approve the Public Service Company easement.
Okay.
Any questions? I just shut down there listening to him. Seeing no questions, public comment period is open for the next 30 seconds. Please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen.
So Tim, this is what is handed out in the agenda packet.
Yes, the form of the ordinance that is in the agenda packet is an emergency ordinance.
I get you. Okay.
We need to adopt the ordinance as in the agenda packet as an emergency.
All right, the public hearing is closed. Is there a motion?
I move we pass Council Bill number 30 as an emergency ordinance in the form that's in the agenda packet. And of course, this is Series 2020.
Second. There is a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Do you need a supermajority? Roll call.
Mr. Kuhn,
Yes.
Ms. Owens,
Yes.
Mr. Bergeron,
Yes.
Ms. Giello,
Yes.
Mr. Carlton,
Yes.
Mayor Mamula.
Yes, and the motion passes. We have a second reading of Council Bill number 31, Series 2020, an ordinance amending Section 9-1-21, the Breckenridge Town Code concerning correlative documents to the Breckenridge Development Code.
At the end of the development code, there is a list of documents or plans that are sort of adopted as part of the development code. The mechanism is that they're listed as a correlative document. The current section of the town code lists the existing or old transit plan as a correlative document. This ordinance, if adopted, would replace the old transit plan reference with a reference to the new transit plan that Jen Poland spoke to the council about now 2 meetings ago. There are no changes to this ordinance from first reading.
Thank you, Tim. Any questions for staff? Anyone in the public wish to comment on this, please use the Q&A function, and you have 30 minutes beginning now.
30 seconds.
30 seconds. Really strict.
Some people need more time when they comment on a correlative document. It takes more time because it's more involved.
Did you get your hair cut, Jeffrey?
I did.
Oh,
Did.
cool. All right, I like that.
I did it myself in the garage. Actually, it was your garage.
All right, public hearing is closed. Is there a motion?
Second reading, I move we pass Council Bill number 31 Series 2020, the title which has been read into the record.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? No. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carlton,
Yes.
Ms. Owens,
Yes.
Mr. Kuhn,
Yes.
Mr. Bergeron,
Yes.
Ms. Giello,
Yes.
Mayor Mamula.
Yes. We have a second reading of Council Bill number 32, Series 2020, an ordinance authorizing the granting of an easement to Public Service Company of Colorado, Tiger Road.
This is sort of the companion to the council bill you just approved as an emergency ordinance for Public Service Company. This ordinance, if approved, would authorize the granting of a second easement to Public Service Company. The only change from first reading is the request to convert the ordinance from a non-emergency to an emergency ordinance. So Jeffrey, it would be the same motion as before. To adopt on second reading the ordinance as an emergency ordinance.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions for staff? If you're in the public and wish to comment on this, please use the Q&A function. You have 30 seconds beginning right now.
Is it still raining in Warriors, Mark, Aaron?
Thank you for asking. Yes, it is.
Right.
Pouring.
Sun
All right.
just came.
Public hearing is closed. Is there a motion?
I move we pass emergency ordinance number 32, series 2020, the title which has been read into the record.
In the form that's in the agenda packet.
In the form that's in the agenda packet.
Thank you.
I also second that.
Thank you, Dick. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Kuhn,
Yes.
Ms. Owens,
Yes.
Mr. Bergeron,
Yes.
Ms. Giello,
Yes.
Mr. Carlton,
Yes.
Mayor Mamula.
Yes. We have a first reading, Council Bill number 33, Series 2020, an ordinance approving a lease with New Singular Wireless PCS LLC, a Delaware limited liability company, Town of Breckenridge Welcome Center, 203 South Main Street.
This ordinance, if approved, would authorize the execution of a long-term lease with an affiliate of AT&T to authorize the placement of a small cell structure on the roof of the town's Welcome Center building. Any ordinance or any lease with a term longer than 1 year must be approved by ordinance, which is why this matter is in front of you tonight. Julia's memo is in the packet, did a nice job of explaining the process and what the lease contains. I want to note that Julia spent a lot of time working with AT&T to come up with a form of a lease that is a good lease for the town. It will result in the small cell facility being placed not in the right of way, but on a town building. So I think staff supports this ordinance and would recommend its adoption on first reading.
Thank you, Tim. Any questions?
No, just like you said before, though, that was a big win for us. Good job to the staff.
Agreed. Seeing no questions, we'll open this up to public comment. You have 30 seconds to enter into the Q&A tab starting now. You ever forget where you started your timer? All right, public hearing is closed. Is there a motion?
I move we pass on first reading Council Bill number 33, Series 2020, the title which has been read into the record.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Bergeron,
Yes.
Mr. Carlton,
Yes.
Ms. Giello,
Yes.
Mr. Kuhn,
Yes.
Ms. Owens,
Yes.
Mayor Mamula.
Yes. We have two resolutions. The first is resolution number 20, series 2020. Resolution amending the Town of Breckenridge Master Plan to include the Breckenridge Free Ride Transit Plan of July 2020 as a part thereof.
This is sort of a companion to the correlative document ordinance. The town's master plan or comprehensive plan includes a lot of documents that are important to the long-term planning for the town. This resolution, if adopted, would add to the list of documents that are part of the town's master plan, the new transit plan. The actual transit plan, as the council may recall, is a lengthy document. It is not included in the agenda packet, but there is a link. So I assume that everybody clicked on it and reread the transit master plan. Eric, this process requires a specifically called public hearing. So when you get ready to solicit public comment, please refer to it as the public hearing being open.
Okay. Any questions for Tim? No, the public hearing is now open. Please use the Q&A tab at the bottom of the screen. You'll have 30 seconds beginning now to enter your comment in the public hearing. Public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion?
I move we pass resolution number 20, series 2020, a resolution amending the Town of Breckenridge Master Plan to include the Breckenridge Free Ride Transit Plan, July 20th, 2020 as part thereof.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? A roll call, Helen, please.
Ms. Owens,
Yes.
Mr. Kuhn,
Yes.
Mr. Bergeron,
Yes.
Ms. Giello,
Yes.
Mr. Carlton,
Yes.
Mayor Mamula.
Yes. We have a resolution number 21, series 2020. Resolution authorizing the submission of a grant application to the Colorado Division of Housing.
Guess this is me. Nicole Rex's memo is in the council's agenda packet explaining how we got to this point. This resolution, if adopted, would authorize the submission of a grant application, hopefully to receive about $950,000 in funding for the Alta Verde project. If the grant is applied for and received, the funds would then be lent to the developer, Gorman, and at some point in the future, those funds would be repaid to the town and be available for future housing needs.
Excellent. Any questions? All right. Public comment is open. Use the Q&A tab. 30 seconds starting now.
Sun just came out again in Vista Point.
It's still raining in Warriersburg.
Okay. You need to move.
You remember Woolerton where it snowed every night?
Yeah, snowed every night. And the sun guys.
Every day. Jimmy Jingle Pants with his
Jimmy Joe Jingle Pants.
Cool.
30 seconds is over. That's good stuff. The public comment is closed. Is there a motion?
I move we pass resolution number 21, series 2020, a resolution authorizing the submission of a grant application to the Colorado Division of Housing.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Owens,
Yes.
Mr. Kuhn,
Yes.
Mr. Bergeron,
Yes.
Ms. Giello,
Yes.
Mr. Carlton,
Yes.
Mayor Mamula.
Yes. Okay, we now move on to the town council member vacancy appointment. Does everybody have their instructions that they received from Helen, or at the very least, Helen's cell phone number? So we're going to conduct this in rounds, lowest vote getters of each round being dropped. For example, all candidates who get 0 votes in the first round will not be included in the second round. Then in the second round, those with the fewest number of votes will not be included in the third round. We will vote by rounds until there is a clear majority winner. There could be a clear majority winner immediately also, correct, Helen?
Correct. I'm going to show each round of total votes on my screen. So give it a second after you vote. I'll tally and I'll show my screen so everyone can see the final tallies.
Excellent. In an effort to make online voting as simple and discreet as possible, you will vote by sending a text with your first pick to Helen Kospalich each round. Does everybody have her cell number? And by everybody, I mean the council.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Well, are there any questions about what we're doing? Is there any further clarification anybody needs? We did mention at the last meeting that if anybody felt uncomfortable voting tonight, we could do another round of interviews if anybody felt that was necessary. Does anyone?
Eric, is there any explanation needed for people watching that weren't able to attend the work session today?
Explanation in what fashion?
Just of who's running and.
Well, there are 11 people running. I think most of you who are still on the line are part of that 11 or sat through some wonderful interviews. Another great collection of people. Ellen Brown, Melanie Dunn, Stephen Fretz, Leslie Glenn, Jennifer McAtamney, Dean Pulio, Carol Sade, Chris Tennell, Harold Vatcher, Emily Wall, and John Warner. Those are the 11 who have put in a letter of application on the deadline, by the deadline, and then answered a series of written questions that were generated by the council to sort of flesh stuff out. We then also had live interviews via Zoom earlier today at 3:30, asked some finishing questions. And if the council is all okay with just going ahead with a vote, then we can do that.
Great explanation. Thanks, Eric.
Yeah. Everybody good with marching forward? Okay.
Yes.
Now? We're doing
Now.
Round one.
I just want to say to all the candidates, I know this is these things are always grueling. They make you stay up in the middle of the night. I get all that. I just want to say from the council, thank you to everybody that applied. Thank you for everybody for your wonderful answers to the questions and for grinding through a Zoom interview, which can't really be easy. These Zoom things are tough. We truly appreciate everybody's desire to be part of the solution in this community, because that's really what you're asking to do, is be part of the solution to some really hard problems now. I get it when people want to be on council when nothing's going on, but right now in particular, when we're in the middle of difficult decisions that affect people's lives, the fact that so many people are interested is awesome. So thank you all. There is always opportunity to be involved in Breckenridge though. So, only one gets on tonight. There's always things you can do. And like I said earlier, some of you came up with some pretty cool ideas, and it'd be great to use your abilities and your skill sets to help us through everything, not just COVID, but everything else we're dealing with. Helen?
Yep, here we go. Can you all see it?
Yep.
Yes.
All right.
So we have a winner then. Correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we're done.
All right.
Wow.
Well, congratulations to Carol. She'll be our new Newest council member beginning on September 8th. We'll have, I assume, a swearing in unless we have a meeting prior to that, which it doesn't look like we're having at the moment.
We'll bring her, we'll probably bring her in that day or maybe even earlier. We'll bring her in and get her sworn in.
Excellent.
Helen. And we'll follow up with her to get everything done.
Excellent. Congratulations again to the other 10 who put their names in, did all the hard work. People that had been on council, people that had never been on council. Thank you all very much for your interest and wanting to sit around with this crew. All right. So we got report of town managers and staff. Oh, nope, sorry. Planning commission decisions. Any call-ups? Planning commission decisions stand as presented. We already had report of the town manager and staff, report of the mayor and town council members. We have other matters, if there are any this evening. Anyone? Matters.
I wanted to say one thing because I've been attending the red, white, and blue board meetings. We're in stage 2 fire restrictions. No one knows exactly what that means, but don't have a fire outside of your home. It is on the red, white, and blue website and the town website, I'm pretty sure, if you need a clearer definition of that. But also, you know, we do have some firefighters that have been going out and helping with some of the fires around here. So, you know, they're a great group of people who are willing to pitch in. Chief Keating said that they have kept a number of our firefighters home just to make sure that we have adequate services here, and that we really, really need to push out the message to, you know, visitors, especially that they cannot, well, I mean, hopefully everyone in town already knows, but visitors that they cannot have fires. They've had lots of unattended fires in backyards, short-term rentals, second homeowners alike. And we just need to make sure everybody knows how serious it is right now. I don't know how you couldn't, since you can't even see the ski area, but apparently not everyone knows or is not taking it seriously. So there you go.
Just so you know, Haley has creatively come up with her 5 commitments of wildfire containment that she is going to be pushing out through social media, and they really line up with, you know, our fire restrictions that we have in the county and town, and also the state right now. So, yeah.
That's great.
Excellent. Any other matters? I'll take that as a no. All right. Thanks, everybody. Nice work. Everybody watching, thank you for attending. Remember, wear a mask, socially distance, stay home if you're sick, get a test if you're sick, and wash your hands. That's a big one it's turning out. Well,
no outdoor fires, no fireworks, no smoking.
And we're just about no, right?
Yeah.
Flu shot, yes.
Yes,
get a flu shot.
Just be careful eating Mexican food.
And be kind to everybody.
Be kind.
Yeah, be nice.
Be nice.
That's the biggest one. Be nice. Thanks, everyone.
Congratulations, Carol.
Yes. And thank you, everyone else. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you all.
Take care.